Here we go.
Hello.
What is up?
Hola.
How goes it? The four of us finally together.
Man, reunited.
Oh,
It feels
good
so
time.
good. Yeah.
Week 4, baby. All
Week
four of us.
four. Yeah, no, I mean, I like that. It's fitting. Week 3, there was 3 of us, or
Right.
3 of you
There we
guys.
go.
Week 4, we got 4 of us. It just all kind of worked out. So,
That's right.
hey, I missed the show last week. I was actually, I had a lot of barbecue that night, and I was stuffed, to say the
I was
least.
saying, man, how was it in KC, man? Outside of the Chargers.
Outside of that game, let me tell you, KC's barbecue scene is ridiculous. Like, I didn't realize just how good it was until I went and firsthand visited. It's lights out up there, man. I had some really good spots. I went to one of the traditional, like, old school barbecue places. I can't even think of the name of it right now. Arthur something. And, it was really good. But then the next night I went to Oklahoma Joe's. They call it KC Joe's now. That's some of the best barbecue I've ever had in my entire life. So,
Nice.
yeah. And then I had some competition barbecue the last day, like some fancy, like high-class barbecue.
Ooh,
It was actually, I never actually shared those pictures, but that was actually really good too. But yeah, great time. And then I spent the entire 8-hour drive back listening to college football, all the different games. So, it was a good time, man.
It's a little different because, if you're sitting on a couch, you can watch 3 TVs, but you can't just listen to 3 games all at one time.
Well, what's funny is actually Sirius has this program. I think it's called
Learfield.
Blitz. Yeah,
the
and it was
Learfield channel.
fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah.
Like every time somebody was in like scoring distance, or it was almost like a red zone, but for college. So
That's cool.
that was fantastic. It really, I was impressed. So it made the drive go by and had a good time.
Now I got
Doc,
a question
next
for
time,
you.
You gotta bring
Arrowhead.
pictures back. We got to document.
Absolutely.
Sir Veza had
That's right.
food pics last week, so
I mean, I have food pics. They're just not
we got to get them.
up here on the screen. What were you saying, Sir Veza?
How was going to a big game at Arrowhead compared to a big time college
It
football
looks
game?
sick.
Look, so you've always heard Arrowhead is a loud stadium. I think it's either the loudest or the second loudest stadium in the NFL. But my God, after that pick 6 in the fourth quarter, my ears were ringing. It got so loud in that stadium. It was. I'll tell you what, though, everybody was so nice. Like, I'm leaving towards the end of the game with my buddy, and everybody's like, "Hey, man, great game, like, fantastic game." And I'm just like, I thought NFL fans are supposed to be assholes, right? Like,
Yeah.
Everybody was so nice. So it was, Arrowhead A+, tailgating A+.
Cool.
Nothing but good things to say about Arrowhead. I can't say that about Dallas, New Orleans, stuff like that. But KC, fantastic.
Ooh, I can say a lot of good things about New Orleans, but that's another day. That's another show.
Yeah, but no, definitely in comparison to college, I do think college tailgates, though, definitely still take the cake. So without a doubt.
Yeah, and you mentioned atmosphere. I'll throw this to you real quick since you missed last week. I didn't mention this last week, but a couple of friends that went to that Texas-Alabama game, they mentioned like that atmosphere down there, and you can kind of tell on TV, but they said like ears ringing, right? Like as loud as they've heard it in most places. And I know Texas has a huge stadium, but that's high praise for. I know it was a great game all the way throughout.
Yeah.
Right? They had the upset there, but there was some high praise on what happened down in Austin.
They definitely said 106,000, I think, in that stadium. I mean, which if you just think about it, man, like I've never been to a big stadium like that with 100,000 people besides AT&T, I guess. But it's like, that stadium's gigantic. A college stadium, it's I couldn't imagine. So, I just, which by the way, real quick, I don't want to dwell on it. That was a great game 2 weeks ago. I couldn't talk about it last week. I mean, man. What can I say? Bama did Bama things, and hey, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. So
I'll say this: the further we get away from that game, I think that game will be much more important, maybe in a month or two, than it was after it happened. Everybody, the reaction was Alabama's got huge holes. Texas is pretty good, but the problem is Bama. But I think like as we see this stuff kind of settle a little bit, it feels like that game might be a little bit more important than we gave it credit for. We'll see.
Oh, there you go, Doc. We'll hang your hat on that, man.
Well, yeah, you know what? 100% coming from the Bama guy, we will 100% hang our hat on that. And let's get into the show.
All right.
Yeah.
Right now. The Week
funk.
3 nightcap.
Yeah, baby.
Was everybody dancing right there?
Yeah,
I'm
just a little
always
funk,
dancing.
you know?
When I hear the music, I'm just always
That's
going to
right, man.
dance.
Yeah, gets people going.
So I'll kick it off to you guys because, like I said, you guys were in front of the TV most of the weekend. I was behind the wheel most of the weekend. So I'll let you guys start it off.
Well, listen, obviously Herm's the big news, right? We'll get to Herm. We'll let Sir Veza just marinate on that for a couple more minutes before we get into it.
We need a week.
I'll start off with Auburn. Auburn was a team that I mentioned last week. I think I picked them in the picks.
Yeah.
And when I picked them, I said, listen, either Jordan Hare is going to look great, pull this game, get a little revenge from the year before, or it's going to look bad and this season might go off the rails. And I'm kind of wondering now, like we saw how that game played out. Penn State looked really good, but Auburn just can't get out of its own way. Turnovers, can't figure out the quarterback situation. What happens now with them? I'm very curious because they don't have a lot of games now that you look at and go, that's a win, that's a win, that's a win. This thing could go sideways really fast for Auburn. So that was one of my takeaways from week 3.
It's another 2-10 season for sure.
Even Vandy got 3 wins, right?
Ooh, we're going to get into that.
Hey, there we go. Hey, yeah, I mean, and like a couple other calls, like Mississippi State, that was, I felt really good about that pick. I felt like they were, the Pirate had them cooking, and talk about laying an egg against a team that I think very little of in LSU. So, really frustrating with that, both offensively, defensively. I mean, across the board, just big letdown. BYU, they ran into they were able to survive the first game of their nightmare schedule. Now it looks like, and that's a big part of why they're going to the Big 12 is now they really, I don't want to say they don't have anything to play for, but, without a conference slate, it's tough sledding the rest of the way.
For sure. That Mississippi State game intrigued me greatly. I mean, they came out, they looked kind of, I don't want to say dominant at the beginning, but, for the first third of the game, you thought they were going to just run over LSU, or at least from start to finish. The Pirates going forward on 4th and 1 on his own 25, like multiple times. I mean, that's crazy. But Jaden Daniels impressed me, and that's where LSU is going to be interesting this year. Throughout the flow of the game, I don't love what I see from Jaden Daniels all the time, but that defense stepped up. It just stopped Mississippi State in the tracks. And if you give Jaden enough chances at it, he's going to run for first downs. Guys are going to be wide open. He's going to hit them most of the time or some of the time. And LSU is going to be a scary team if that defense is as good as we saw last weekend.
What's funny, though, is I love that you brought that up. And it's like they started off their first couple games really slow. I'm not counting the Southern game. But, the Florida State game, the Mississippi State game, LSU has started very, very slow. And then it's like they start to finally find their rhythm. And I mean, hey, they're not playing terrible. I didn't have them to win many games this year, but maybe we're looking at 8-9 wins. I don't know. We'll see.
The line was 6.5, 7.5.
Yeah.
We should probably talk about College Station a little bit too. I want to give a shout out to everybody listening, everybody in the Discord. I asked for your thoughts and your prayers, and y'all prayed so hard for my safe return that my friend got sick and I never even had to go. So big shout out to everybody there. A&M coming up big on the big stage, and maybe just more so Miami just laying a dud. 130 more yards on offense, 11 more first downs, missing field goals, getting field goals blocked. That was a game they could have won. I don't want to say pretty easily, but they definitely had a shot at it. And they could have, I looked at their schedule. That's a runnable schedule. You can go 12-0, upset Clemson. And that was a big game that could have, shot them off into the stratosphere. And they just couldn't get out of their own way either.
Man. Yeah, like those two teams matching up is like a classic example of teams that always seem to let down on expectations, right? So pretty interesting to see where they go from here. If we're calling that a prove it game, I guess they both failed the test in my eyes. So I guess we'll see where it goes.
Mm-hmm. Because, besides that one, what was that? The muff punt that led to 7. A&M's offense scored 10 points. So, it definitely wasn't a great showing, but Miami's offense looked so bad. I know it's an SEC defense, but man, Miami ran out there with a Pop Warner offense, and I don't know. It just wasn't.
But they were moving the ball.
They were, but
they were getting up and down the field. They just weren't turning it into points.
Yeah, it's
red zone.
Yeah, it was crazy just looking at the box score the next day and just kind of going through the numbers. And I tweeted this out, but they had 4 drives of 12 plays or more and got 9 points out of it. 12 plays, 4 drives. And the box score looked completely in Miami's favor altogether. It's perfectly like Miami and A&M, right? Like Miami, big stage, didn't perform like you thought they might, like everybody kind of felt like they should. And then A&M finds a way to win a game where like it was ugly. It wasn't very exciting. Like they somehow managed a low scoring victory, but it was a good win. And now they stay alive. Like it was like perfectly captured those 2 teams.
Yep.
I've got 2 fun stats for you guys.
Oh.
2 fun stats. All right. Anthony Richardson, my preseason Heisman darling, guys.
Here we go. AR-15. Let's go.
In 3 games, he has more tackles than touchdown passes. 3 tackles to 0 touchdown passes.
Is that good?
Well, you know, like if you didn't have the second part where you talk about the touchdown passes, more tackles, I mean, that's great. You know?
Yeah.
All right.
Ouch.
So Iowa's got more passing touchdowns than he does?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, which is wild because they've scored
Spencer Petras, man, get him on the Heisman.
They've scored, 30 points or something like that? And so, all right, so here's my last question, guys. Are we in March or are we in September?
Ooh.
Feels like July over here.
Reason
Blue
why
blood
I say
season?
that. Kansas, Kentucky, North Carolina, Duke, Syracuse, UCLA, and Indiana, all 3-0.
Wow. And a lot of them.
I didn't even know they all had football programs.
A lot of those teams have won games that are like you had to see the win probability's got to be low. I mean, UCLA trailing Southern Alabama into the 4th. I mean, just across the board, you know. But hey, you know, it's great. It's good to have a little bit of parity here. The good doctor called it at the start of the year that hey, we might have a little bit of an open season. None of those guys are going to compete for a championship, but hey, we can get to a bowl game.
Imagine them all in bowl games. I mean, it's one of those things that's like, wow, okay, this is where we are now. So
this was game day's chance to go to Lawrence, and they passed on it. I mean, I know it's not exciting, Tennessee, Florida, but like Kansas is a great story, and Duke is. I mean, they haven't played anybody yet. I think they might look pretty good this weekend, but Riley Leonard's a pretty good quarterback, and their offense and defense has played pretty well in the game and the opportunities they've had. So this would have been, I think, a really good atmosphere for them. So maybe a little bit of a missed opportunity there.
It's going to be all right. I think Kansas is going to be maybe 6-0 coming into a big game.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah,
here we go.
They
man.
might have that chance again.
Rock Chalk
Jayhawks.
Jayhawks. Let's go.
They've got Duke. They've got Iowa State. They've got TCU, and then they go to OU. So I mean, maybe it's not going to be in Lawrence, but be undefeated going into OU. OU beats Texas, and we can do it there.
Real quick, I want to hit on Alex's question. What do you guys think of Rattler's future? If you've watched this show if you watched this show week 1, I told you guys what I thought of Spencer Rattler. And I wish I'd have been on the show because I'd have told y'all to throw the mortgage on Georgia and the points because Rattler is a bum. I'm going to keep saying it. Spencer Rattler looked rough and, you know, God help South Carolina.
Well, and I know that's just deep-seated Oklahoma hate, you know, in your heart. But I absolutely agree. I mean, like the dude's been anointed as the chosen one. Preseason, he was like 6th in Heisman odds, and he has never demonstrated that ability. So you know, I think Shane Beamer's a good coach, but I mean, you know, South Carolina, you know, like what are they supposed to win? 6-7 games? That's good for them.
He's got all the tools. I mean, his arm's great. I mean, he makes some throws that you look at and go, wow, like that's amazing. But it's just one of those guys that like he's got all the ability, but just hadn't put it together.
Yeah.
No, I agree. You know, he's definitely not doing his replacement, his OU replacement. You know, he's not doing things that he's doing, but we'll talk about him in a couple minutes. But yeah, no. So that's what we got for the nightcap on week 3.
Well, we got to throw. I know that Sir Veza is going to get to it, but we got to talk Herm, right? And if you want to save it for the next segment, that's fine. I'm more curious now. I mean, like first of all, like the video that came out of him going over to talk to the president and the AD, and Sir Veza, don't ruin this for me. I'm just going to picture that was him getting fired right there. I know you might tell me otherwise. I'm just going to assume that like they were just telling him, "Hey, Herm, you're going to need to fly back coach on the way home." I mean, that's what I'm kind of expecting there.
I haven't seen this video.
You haven't seen that video? Oh,
wait, hold on. I'm going to look at it now. Hold on.
Yeah. You never see something like that.
My favorite part about the video is Michael Crow, the ASU president, just can't even look at him.
Yeah,
he just can't even look at him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes it look like Lane Kiffin got treated royally on his way out.
And who was the cause of that? Arizona State. I mean, if you're getting fired in a weird way, you probably had something to do with Arizona State.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm kind of curious. Yeah, you saw the video, huh?
Wow. I did not see this, but that is brutal. Like, you can just look at Herm's face and just tell, like, that is the moment they told him, like, right there.
It felt like they were like, hey, look, Herm, we're having a meeting tomorrow morning. Get some sleep.
I think tonight. It was probably
we'll see you in the morning.
Yeah, what if Crow like hit him with, hey man, you play to win the game? Like he just drops it on him like that walking off.
Did you see Eastern Michigan's tweet after the game?
Yeah,
their graphic. That was their graphic. You play to win the game with the score.
Yeah. It was so spot on. I mean, we should talk about Herm now, get into the game later, but he did not play to win that game. I mean, that was embarrassing, but we can get to that later. But everything you just said, one of the sources that you hear about said that Edwards had been privately expressing that he'd grown tired as a result of the demands of the job, the transfer portal. He was not recruiting. I mean, we have nobody right now. He didn't want to do the job. So why he was there on day one, I have a lot of interesting thoughts. I mean, I could go for like 3 hours, but one interesting thing I thought about earlier was when they hired him, they put Antonio Pierce and an offensive coordinator with him. And I think the whole plan was, Pierce is going to run it. Pierce is going to head up, the recruiting. We had some really awesome recruiters like we'd never had before. And I think Herm was just going to be the guy with the whistle, that does the game day stuff. And these other guys were going to this is just my guess, kind of run that program. Well, when COVID hit and we got busted and we had to get rid of those guys, well, now Herm didn't have those people he could trust on to take those roles on. And he wasn't up for the job. I think that's how we got to where we are. That's kind of my take.
What's funny is I'm reading something here, and actually this is something I didn't know, that ASU's AD said the new coach would have to retain the previous coordinators. And I didn't realize Billy Napier was on that staff. And they're saying that he was the one that wanted the job, but they went with Herm instead. Could you imagine maybe a Billy Napier-led Arizona State Sun Devils team right now?
I mean, Todd Graham had a lot of those guys. He had Norvell under him, both Norvells.
Wow.
There was a lot of Danny Gonzalez from, was it New Mexico State or San Diego State, was on that team for a little while. So we had guys that were in and out that could have been following up Graham. And I don't know if y'all know this, but our AD was Graham's agent.
Huh.
And so that's kind of how they got the word in.
Interesting.
So it's great when that works out, everybody's bad together, right?
And again, we were set up. If COVID doesn't happen, I truly believe, we had great. I'm not sitting here and say we're going to win the national championship, but see success we haven't seen in 20 years, and that's not a lot. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of success there. So it's going to be interesting where you go from here. There's rumors that our aides were telling other coaches like our plays and our game plan legitimately. The whole reason we're being looked at by the NCAA is that people inside of our program ratted us out. They had the pictures, they had the videos, they had the receipts. This was not, oh, you got busted. This was people inside the program clearly did not like Herm. I think also they didn't like Pierce. I think Pierce was kind of like, I'm running it this way. We're going to do what we got to do to win. And some people weren't on board with that.
So does it sound like Herm's about to get paid? Does he have a case if he tried to take this to court, with all that stuff that you're saying, it really sounds like he really could get paid for this.
My take on it was, I mean, they're going to find a way to meet in the middle. I mean, he's still close with Ray Anderson. I'd be shocked if, who knows? I'd be shocked if Herm took it that way. But yeah, I mean, if there's things like that trying to undercut you, you probably got a pretty good argument.
Right.
Yeah, he'll get his money either way. So now we got 2 coaches fired, right? We're into week 4 now. Who's next? I'm curious what y'all think. I found some odds, right? So the two betting favorites right now are Jeff Collins at Georgia Tech and Brian Harsin at Auburn. Behind that, you got Neil Brown, David Shaw, Jeff Scott at South Florida, a few of the names that are there. So curious what y'all think. Who might be next on the chopping block?
Man, it's tough to say who's next because I feel like all of them could get fired this year. David Shaw, like what he has back in him is, Stanford isn't exactly a traditional power. He's led them to BCS games, mostly with Harbaugh players. But I mean, Harsin is going to be fired by midseason unless he still has that same dirt that kept his job the end of last year. But Jeff Collins, man, like former FIU coach, so he's my guy, but man, Georgia Tech is a train wreck.
Yeah.
I could see Shaw going last just because, like you said, it's Stanford.
Right.
That might not be their biggest, embarrass them or whatever. But I like the point on Harsin. One thing that's interesting is you don't usually see coaches get fired this early. 2 high-profile jobs, or at least, one and then Arizona State, happen so early. Will other teams, if it's not working out, just be like, you got to go?
Yeah.
So the question is, will somebody get fired in the next 2 weeks?
Emperor G asked it earlier. He said, "Is this the week Neil Brown loses his job?" If they don't come out and put a smacking on Virginia Tech and lose that game, I think he could be the next man to go.
Yeah, like we're going to talk about that game later too.
Yeah, man. What about you, Spen? What do you think?
I mean, I would go. I'm curious. Like Satterfield's on there at 20-1. Like he's a bit of a long shot right now. But after watching that game last week, like they had Florida State beaten, right, and they knocked out the quarterback. I know Miller's a great receiver. He's going to be a matchup nightmare for a lot of people, but like it's just sloppy football. They're underachieving with what should be one of the top quarterbacks in the country.
Yeah.
And it just kind of feels like this was the year that things need to start turning around, and they haven't.
Yeah.
And I think he's a good coach, and I thought it was going to be a pretty good situation for him. But he's a guy that I could see like a couple more losses and then just be like, you know what, let's see what else we can do.
Man, that one's up there with like the Frost hire, where it felt like everything was slotted into place to be like a home run.
Yeah.
And man, it's just none of it has worked out. I don't know what the situation is. I don't know if there's a disconnect somewhere along the line, but I thought Satterfield would take them to new heights. But
me too.
I think you're right. I think he's going to be gone this year.
There's good value.
Neil
there,
Brown.
20-1. Yeah.
Good Neil Brown says, "Trust the climb." I mean, what do you do when there's nobody there to catch you when you fall? So we'll see what happens with him.
Take me home, country roads.
Ooh, there we go.
So yeah, that's all I got. Y'all got anything else on the recap there?
Yeah, I promised a Herm game, and I was going to say, I'm going to say a quote, and you tell me if Herm said it or somebody else said it, and I'm just going to ruin the surprise. Herm said all of these really stupid things. He said in 2017. We don't huddle anymore in our society. That's the problem with it, to be honest. We've got a lot of problems in our society. I'm not sure if huddling is like up there. 2018, after a bowl game, he says, "We didn't lose the game. We just ran out of time. Coach, that's losing."
That's one of the all-time faves right there.
There's a picture of him holding up the team jersey, and it's real small. I mean, it stretches out big over the pads, and he asks if it was a girl jersey, and the employee says, "No, it's a game jersey," and he just exclaims, "This is a game jersey?" Couldn't believe it. 2018, this is when he did a lot of his damage, I guess. He said, "Most college coaches want to score. They always think points are the thing, and that's where it gets away from them, I think." Scoring is part of the game. Last I checked, a lot of people were ripping on him for that quote. But I will say, apparently in the context, he was talking about draining the clock so he could kick the field goal and win the game on the last play. But the dumbest thing he said was at the introductory press conference. One of the people that do the writing, it's called Devil's Digest, one of the websites, and they said, "Oh, so and so from Devil's Digest," and Herm says, "Devil's Digest? I'm Catholic now. I'm a Christian. Watch out for them devils. We're good, though. I ain't taking it personal. We're all Sun Devils, man." Like, it did not look like he was trying to be funny. He looked like, let's not talk about the devil here. Let's stay positive. So,
oh, man.
Yeah. My favorite Herm quote is, of course, always going to be the "you play to win the game." That's always going to be my personal favorite. But, man, he's kind of fallen off the rocker since then, so...
as the good Reverend Sir Veza said, hope the door hits his ass on the way out, right?
Just, coach, flying coach all the way to San Jose. I've been there.
But yeah.
All right. Is it time for a sad state of affairs? Or ready to get into
let's go ahead.
Bring
the
it on,
dirtier
brother.
parts of college football?
You go right ahead.
Yeah.
All right. Every week, just terrible things happen on the football field. And sometimes it happens to good people and good teams. So let's knock some of that out. Nelly, you piqued my interest. You said you had something good for us today. Get sad, man.
Man, let me tell you something super duper sad is about the Beyond Meat executive that attended the Arkansas game that was driving his truck through a Subaru. He said it obstructed his way. They touched bumpers. He got out and he bit part of his nose off. If that's not the saddest thing I've ever heard, that I mean, you're already struggling. You're scuffling to beat Missouri State. You're driving in the parking garage. You make that hard turn, and the next thing you know, you got a nose in your mouth. So I mean, just like the saddest thing I've ever heard. In addition to eating Beyond Meat, rather than regular meat. So it's like this guy. I think he was just a carnivore. Like he was missing out on regular protein, and he just had to dive right in. So I mean, just the sad for that poor Beyond Meat executive that had to bite a guy's nose off.
I think they say "whoa tofu suey" there on that one. Yeah, good doctor. You got something for us?
Oh man,
I really don't, man. Because like I said, I was kind of away. I was very disappointed in the way Miami couldn't score points this weekend. But other than that, honestly, I didn't have too much. So I'm gonna let you guys carry the load this week. I promise you, I will have some sadness to spread next week. I promise you that.
Well, I'm happy to give you some. I'm happy to give you some.
Come on. You can give us two
because I do have two for you because I love bad football teams, especially when you're gambling, right? Like find a bad football team and you ride them, right? You go against them. Well, Hawaii's been that team so far, or at least one of those teams so far. So I tweeted this out, and I just couldn't believe because I didn't stay up to watch the Duquesne game, and I looked at that line last week, and they're 8-point favorites, and I was like, you know what? Maybe play Duquesne, although they got blown out by Florida State earlier this year. Hawaii's bet. Maybe they hang with them. And I woke up the next morning, I saw, Hawaii got a win. They covered the spread. Good job, Hawaii. But then I went and looked at the numbers, and again, they played the Dukes. Okay, Hawaii had 184 yards of total offense, compared to 364 for Duquesne. Okay. Wow. Duquesne outgained them, almost doubled them up in first downs across the board, top to bottom. Somehow Duquesne lost 24-14. No clue how. But again, if you want to find a team to bet against, and we got to go one tonight, we're going to talk about it a little bit later on, that's on my radar. But Hawaii is a team to always identify. And along those same lines too, okay, just as bad UMass. We know how bad UMass has been for quite a while. They've been just an awful team. They beat Stony Brook 20-3. Again, celebrate the wins when you can find them. If you're a UMass or Hawaii, you get a W. It's not a 24-hour rule, right? It's like a 7-day rule. Like just enjoy it till the next kickoff because we got a victory. They played Stony Brook, and it's the same story. Stony Brook outgained them, more first downs. Like the box score, if you looked at it, it looked like Stony Brook won the game. Somehow they only scored 3 points. So no idea how UMass was able to keep them off the scoreboard. But looking at those two teams playing two awful teams, right? FCS teams, still found a way to win, but just get outmatched across the board. So nothing changed my mind in terms of I need to just continue to bet against Hawaii and UMass for a while. Like this has been like a 2-year thing. Hawaii more this year, but UMass has been going for a while. But those two teams, sad state of affairs.
And what I like about that is, if they get that win, if they cover that spread, maybe it starts tilting back the other way where you can kind of get that edge back a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's what we call the people's wins, actually. We're the ones that win.
Real quick though, y'all are talking about the sad state of affairs. Can I turn this around real quick and talk about the end of the Troy Appalachian State game and listening to it on the radio and how amazing that was? Because they block, they don't punt the ball. They take the safety after they go for it on 4th down in the red zone. And then all of a sudden, it's 2 seconds left in the game and they throw that pass. When the receiver catches the ball on the radio, the dude just starts screaming. And I'm like, what the hell has happened? And they're like, he's did it. He scored. And I'm just like, holy shit. Like, it was so, dude, that was probably one of my favorite radio calls of all time because it was live. And it's like, that was so electric. Like, I loved every second of that.
Did you get to see the video of the Troy sorority girls?
Yeah.
No, bro. What is going on?
Unbelievable. Dude, we gotta get you more plugged in online, man.
Yeah, it's have you heard of Twitter? There's this Twitter.
Yeah,
thing.
you know what's crazy though is I didn't look, man, with this whole like NFT Twitter thing, Web3 Twitter. Like, I don't get a lot of sports stuff coming across the line unless I look for it. So no, I actually didn't get to see it. So
while you're looking it up, and it's exactly what you think it is. They think they won, and clearly they didn't. But I mean, is that just what? I mean, why aren't they watching that game with other people? Is kind of my question. Like, do most sororities just sit at home? And I mean, was it just a one-time thing, or are they normally no, we're not going to go have fun with like dudes and stuff?
Yeah, that was my first thought.
It was the chick in the pink dress for me that just had this face, and I just absolutely like the chick in the pink here. I absolutely lost my mind just now.
Oh man!
Hey, listen, you got to respect the women of Alabama. They appreciate football, right? That's the takeaway here. Is not only did they knew this was going to be the end of the game, but they immediately knew that like this thing turned on a dime. So like respect the football knowledge.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey, they knew what was going on. They know ball.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with them watching it alone. It's just weird to me.
Fair question. Fair question.
So Rev and Cerveza, bring it to us, brother.
To the ladies of Troy. Sad. Very sad. Let's get started in Tempe. Very sad. One thing that was very interesting was on Saturday night, I was sad. I was very sad. Midday Sunday when they fired him, it was like new life, like rising from the ashes, as they always say. Just a piss poor job all around. ASU was dominated on the ground. I think we gave up 260 rushing yards to their running back. We never adjusted. Herm says he plays to win the games, and I call BS because he didn't. He never adjusted. It took till about 12 minutes left in the game before he started pressuring on defense, which actually worked. And we huddle every play. So we're making the game shorter. It took him till 8 minutes left to start going. Like, you are losing. You are going to lose to this team. There was no urgency. He absolutely deserved to be fired. And just for all the Sun Devils out there, yours truly included, sad, very sad. One thing I got to work on as we go through the season, getting sad for people, is like Nebraska and Colorado. There's only so much sadness we can share. Do I need to say their name every week? Do I need to talk about how Colorado just got smoked and how Nebraska looks lost? Do I have to keep mentioning how terrible these teams are? We'll see. But for now, sad. Miami, we talked about it. They offensively dominated that game. They couldn't make it happen on the road in a tough environment. Could have been a 12-0 type of season. Could have been a season that makes those kids' lives sad. Didn't happen. Auburn, we covered it. I mean, how can you watch that football team right now? They got nothing. It's sad. South Alabama, let's look at it the other way. We should be happy for these kids. They fought all the way down till the end. They had the lead. They were kicking a field goal to go up by 5, I think 4 or 5. They end up faking it. They don't get it. UCLA walks all the way down the field. Yep. They score the last play of the game. Sad. And even more sad than that, did y'all see the crowd at the UCLA game? There was 97
Yikes.
People. The Big Ten, I mean, they got a good one. Let me tell you. They're very sad. Terrible job, UCLA fans. I mean, it's an hour ride to get out there from campus, which is just crazy in itself. Old Dominion, sad, kind of like South Alabama. They were leading Virginia. They were going to be the best football team in the state of Virginia this year. And at the end, again, they blew it. Sad. K-State, 10 points. 10 points to Tulane. And I want to give a shout out. Somebody on the Discord, I tried to go back and find it. I couldn't find it. Early in the morning, they say it's going to be windy in Manhattan. Take the under. And that under hit big time. So get in that Discord, get talking. People have great plays. And for K-State, sad, very sad. And then Marshall, 17-point favorites. Of course, I'm laying the points. They don't get out of their own way. They lose to Bowling Green in overtime. I don't even know if they led at any point, or at least for most of the game, they didn't. So just for them, very sad. And not football involved, but fight night. There was no fight night tonight. So for all of us, very sad. Those guys, hopefully they're just out there celebrating at like a steakhouse because they've earned it. Those guys kill it with the serious alpha. So if you're not watching fight night, then sad on you.
Bam.
Love it.
Good stuff.
Yeah. That was great. I like that.
That's good stuff right there, man. Two things to add. One is, South Alabama guys, like Spen said, they just know ball. They came out and they just had their hearts broken out there. And secondly, when you talk about Herm didn't huddle, did you hear his quote from before? They're just, I mean, you can't go no huddle. There's not enough huddling in America right now. So
he wants us to get together. Let's be together. And how about South Alabama? They've covered every game so far this year, guys.
Hey, there we go.
That's actually impressive, honestly.
Yeah,
it's an impressive list.
I went out to UCLA 2003. No, 2003. Alabama was preseason number 3, playing out the Rose Bowl. Went out to the game. It was 01. It was Dubos's last year. He fell apart. But just to kind of tie it into the fans, I'd come from like Alabama, right? Like college football. If there's a game on, everybody in the state knows what the game is, right? It could be a Southern Miss matchup, La Tech, or it could be Auburn. Like there's a game being played. We go out there. I'm with my girlfriend at the time. We're eating somewhere in the Hollywood area, right? Like in LA. And somebody comes by, like we're wearing Alabama stuff or whatever. Hey, what are y'all in town for? And we're like, we're in town for the game. And they were like, what game? And I was just like, what world am I living in? Like, that was the first time that, like, I realized that college football didn't exist, like, in a lot of places. Like, people just didn't care.
Yeah.
But it's perfect for what, like, we see now. Like, now that they're not any good and like, the Pac-12 is kind of crumbling, nobody has an interest.
No. And that's why they didn't invite y'all back until, like, whatever, 2012.
Hey, they beat us that game. We took the opening punt. We got to stop on defense. Freddie Millen took it to the house. I was like, we're 3 in the country. This is going to be a cakewalk to like a national champ. This is before we were even good. Like, we had been a while, right? From that point forward, like, it was 3 wins the rest of the year, 8 losses, a disaster of a season. That was the highlight. The first touch of the football was the highlight that year.
Real quick, got a question out there.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Cal? Are they decent, or is Notre Dame just that bad?
Man, I'm in 2 minds on that. I think Cal is all right. I don't know what grade that we like put Cal on for what they can be. But I think that they are a good Cal team. I think Notre Dame is scuffling. I don't know. I'm sure you guys have more input than that, but I don't know how to grade Cal.
If I was choosing over or under, 6.5 wins, I mean, I'm just there. I mean, maybe they're going to go 500 and maybe they'll make a bowl. And at the beginning of the season, I would have said probably they're not.
So is it just Notre Dame?
We'll see.
Notre Dame's just very average.
I think they're just very average.
They just have, their offense is just, it doesn't have a lot right now. Quarterback, I mean, a quarterback is where football, like, you have to have a good quarterback, or at least a serviceable quarterback, and they don't have that right now. But they did make some improvements in the second half. Like, they started getting a push offensively, and started to run the football a little bit better. So maybe they made some adjustments to start looking ahead. Like, I don't look at this game and say, okay, Cal's maybe a pretty good team. I mean, they might have a few wins in the Pac-12, but I don't to me, this was just Notre Dame is just still struggling, I think.
Yeah.
It's a damn shame. Well, guys.
What's up, 4 Train? Really quick. We call you ASU East. You got Mike Norvell. You got Johnny Wilson. Thanks for coming and checking out the show.
ASU East. I mean, it kind of works,
The colors are very similar.
That's right. Hey, the desert, man. It's everywhere, baby.
No, for sure. First time for the KOD college football. Appreciate it. But if we're good, I mean, I'm ready to move on. I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready to move on.
Let's get past the sadness.
I can't wait to talk about this next topic. So let's go ahead and move it on. And we are back. Bandwagon jumping. I'm going to lead us off here because I want to talk about somebody that has become near and dear to my heart. You know, he's become very close to me on a personal level. And, you know, I want to go out to the West Coast and talk about the quarterback of the University of Southern California Trojans, Mr. Caleb Williams.
Preach it.
Mr. Caleb Williams. Let me tell you guys. So everybody's like, Fresno's going to put up a fight. You know, Fresno's probably going to, you know, make this a game. I'm like, no, I'm taking USC. Give me all the points. They're covering. It's not going to be a big deal. Caleb Williams goes out there, does his thing. Let me tell you guys. 3 games this year, he's thrown for 874 yards, 8 touchdowns, no picks. His passer rating's damn near immaculate. You know, he's got 2 on the ground. Caleb Williams, in my opinion, is the front runner for the Heisman. You know, that's who I'm throwing my chips in right now. It's the Caleb Williams show. Look, college football is more exciting to me when there is somebody on the West Coast that has the possibility of winning the Heisman. As crazy as that sounds, I just think that it just makes for better, like, Pac-12 football games, in my opinion, you know? And I don't know, man. I'm in love with Caleb Williams. Now that he's gone out of the Big 12 and I don't have to look at him in, you know, OU maroon anymore after he came in and absolutely torched Texas last year for his first game playing. You know, hey, man, I'm all in on Caleb Williams. You got it, man. You're my guy now. So, hey.
Man, it's got to be the greatest upset we've ever seen is that the good doctor cheering for a former Sooner, saying he just in love with him.
I'm in love with him, man. I'm in love with him.
I mean, it's incredible what happens when you get rid of Clay Helton. You can have a program again. And that's where I'm kind of stuck on USC, and I kind of feel the same way about Texas, where I'm just ready for USC to lose 3 or 4 games. They probably should have won. New coaching staff, you know, a big-time player, a quarterback. You know, let's be honest about who they played. Rice is really strong this year. Stanford, as we talked about, their coach is going to see next year. And Fresno State. So we'll see. I'm certainly not ready to shut down the rain on the parade of USC, but they're definitely they're going to have to prove it to me teams.
Hey man, Clay Helton got Scott Frost fired. You know, he can coach him up down there at Georgia Southern.
Yeah. Listen, I'm with you, Doc. I mean, I think Caleb's earned that respect right now. How quickly you moved away from Anthony Richardson. Let's let the record show that was your week 1 guy. Okay.
You know,
but I'll say, like, to your point, like, if you wanted him on the Heisman, like, you kind of missed that boat. He's now, I think he's the second favorite now at plus 350.
Yeah.
So he's already there. But let's see what they do when they play a defense, right? And they got 10 turnovers and they haven't given the ball up once. So they got a plus 10 turnover margin. Like, that's like the last, right? Yeah. This weekend's going to be a tremendous test at Oregon State. But again, Lincoln Riley, their offense is great, right? That's what he does. But can he beat those teams that are a complete team, right? So there's still a lot to be left, but I do like, and I agree with you that I'm happy when a West Coast team is good, especially USC. It's just better for college football.
No, 100%.
And they've got their next 4 at Oregon State, Arizona State at home, Wazoo at home, Utah on the road, and then it's 5 teams they could win in their sleep.
Right.
So I mean, 10, 11, even 12 wins is very possible this year.
Yep. I'm all in on them. Who are you guys on? You guys jumping on any bandwagons, jumping off any bandwagons? You know, let's hear it. Man,
I got a couple I'm jumping back on. My favorite one is one that I just put a foot off is the Oregon Ducks. They're going to be standing in the way of Caleb Williams and his Heisman and USC in the Pac-12 championship berth. Bo Nix playing pretty well right now. You know, outside of facing week 1, let's forget week 1 happened. But Oregon started to put it together. You know, the big win against BYU. I think they're starting to figure it out a little bit. You know, also I would like to say that I am. That same foot that was half on, half off for Oregon is now half on, half off for Penn State. I think the talent's there. I think top to bottom, they're set up well. The problem is their coach. So Frames Janklin is terrible. He can't lead them to where they want to go, but they're going to win every game except probably Ohio State, Michigan. But their expectations coming into the season was nothing. So I think they're going to be a 10-win team. So I'm hopping on that bandwagon.
I'd like to see that schedule. I wasn't super impressed with them, especially early. I mean, at some point, it just got out of control. And thank God for them so the over could cover. But last week was brutal to watch for a while.
Yeah, I don't have anybody this week that Caleb. I mean, USC, I'm kind of moving towards their bandwagon a little bit, but no team either way moved me too much. I mean, I think this week was about what we expected for the most part. I mean, if I'm going to sell anybody, it's maybe Dana Holgorsen at Houston. I think he felt like he was moving the right direction, but this year it's just got some West. Yeah, it's just not great.
I've had to let them go also. It was like I came in hot on Houston week 1. I'm like, that's my lock. Houston's going to cover. Houston's going to play good. And then it's just kind of like, well, I don't know. So
did y'all see them fighting each other on the sideline?
I did actually see that. Now, I did see that video. That was wild.
Never great.
It's early for it to implode. I'm not really on anybody right now. I'm waiting on Texas, just kind of sitting, waiting around, making sure they don't stumble somewhere stupid.
I think it's going to happen, but go ahead.
But I'm actually feeling pretty good, but I'm off BYU. I don't know why I was on anyways. I think after they beat Baylor, and great teams cover, so that was great. But I think after they beat Baylor, I started kind of lumping them in with last year, which is why I hate the rankings anyways. And then just watching them play Oregon. It's not last year's team. Their quarterback's in the NFL. Their running back's in the NFL. It's just a different team. And I still see 9 to 10 wins on their schedule for sure. But that's just another non-Power 5 team to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and their schedule is brutal. You knew it was going to catch up to them at some point. And Oregon is playing well. Oregon is a team now that you kind of you got to start paying attention to. They're not out of the mix completely, especially in the Pac-12, and they look a lot better after that Georgia debacle. But maybe that's just more of what Georgia's capable of this year than an indictment on Oregon. Who knows?
Is it just the Pac-12? Because I assume this doesn't happen in the SEC. But if you're a Pac-12 team and you lose, the first thing the coach says is, "Well, we've still got all our goals in front of us," because being national championship wasn't on the list of goals. Is that just the Pac-12?
Yeah, you don't hear that in the SEC very often. Yeah.
I mean, you might hear it in the Big 12, but, real quick, though, I do want to just touch real quick on Texas. And I do think that, you're there because it's close. I really wish Quinn wouldn't have got hurt, against Bama.
Yeah.
Because I really feel like we'd really be talking about his potential and how well he's been playing. I just don't think that, Hudson Card is the answer, and I think that's going to show before Quinn gets back. So I 100% expect to see one of those losses that you're talking about, Sir Veza, happen probably here in the next week or so. So,
And it's at Tech, and then I think West Virginia at home.
Yep. And then it's
those
OU.
are just they're winnable games. Yeah, I mean, you just got to get there. I think I read something earlier. Who knows who's blowing smoke? But the Ewers could be back, quicker than you'd think.
You'd hope, man. You'd hope.
But Card, he's been around. These are 2 very winnable games, and if the coaching's there, if the players' heads are on straight, we'll find out a lot this weekend.
I was actually listening to somebody real quick. I was listening to somebody talk about Sarkisian and just how good of a coach he is, just how good of a motivational coach he is. And you would think that with a coach that, has had some personal demons wouldn't be that good as a motivational coach, but everybody loves the guy when it comes to the players, from former programs and stuff like that. So, it's actually really been nice to see, Texas have a coach like that, because honestly, I feel like it's been since Mac's been gone that they've had a coach like that. So,
yeah, well, just wait till he has a rough patch, and then nobody will be saying anything nice about him.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
You done?
No, that's all I have. I don't have a whole lot. Nothing moved me this week. I expect this week seems like there's a lot of games that will I guess show us some true colors. So I'm expecting next week I'll have a few bandwagons to jump off of or on.
There we go.
I think we might be jumping off a few next week. Well, you never know. let's slide on over.
All right, fellas, nightmare cover. So we started last week. This is more of like kind of a bad beat segment. I know Sir Veza is a positive guy, so he puts a positive spin on things. But I'm going to lead off this week and give you one. And again, join us in the Discord on Saturdays. I think we're sharing a lot of pretty good picks so far. One that I was on, and I shout out Shane for talking me off of the Wake pick. I liked him to cover, but he said, nah, this is a tricky game. I stayed off of it, but I did take Wake over 39 team total. Okay. So let's take us back to this game. If you didn't see this game with Liberty. Okay. So Wake wasn't playing well, but did finally get pull out, get a 7-point lead in the fourth quarter. And I'm sitting here thinking, also, let me back up a half step. I took Wake minus 3.5 live as well. Like, I felt pretty good about them winning the game, eventually pulling away. So I said, I'll grab 3.5 around halftime, somewhere in there. Fast forward, fourth quarter, feeling pretty good. 37-30. Liberty's got the ball driving in. I'm sitting back going, listen, it's going to go one of two ways. They're going to tie it up. We're guaranteed to go over, or they're not going to score, and we're going to cover. This is a perfect situation right now to be in. Split a bet. Best case scenario, they go to overtime. They also get the total and the cup. Like that's perfect world, and that's a good chance of that, right? You're at home, or you get to overtime, you get momentum, you're fine. Well, Hugh Freeze, our boy Hugh Freeze, coaching from the hospital bed.
Next
decided, you know what?
Coach. All right.
I'm gonna go ahead and make sure we get out of here with the victory. I want to go for 2. And this is the play that you always say, man, I want my coach to go for it here and play to win. But I did not want him to go for it there.
Yeah,
I wanted him
that's right.
to play it conservatively,
Kick
get
that
it to overtime. And of course, he goes for it, doesn't get it. Wake sits on the ball. Worst case scenario, clock runs out, 1-point win. Wake fans are happy. Shane's happy. I'm sad. I'm pissed. Why did that happen? So that was my nightmare cover for week 3.
Man, so one of my favorite bets of last week was the UGA under. So I mean, absolute hurricane of a defense. They pummeled them first half, feeling pretty good, and Georgia defense hasn't given up a touchdown all season. And lo and behold, we're a minute into the end, give up a touchdown and no time, pushes it by a half point. I mean, just worst case scenario. So frustrated. I talked a bunch of people into getting this under, and I feel like a clown. So super frustrated. That's my nightmare cover on that one.
So I really didn't have a nightmare cover because I couldn't bet because I was in Missouri, but I would have put money on both Arkansas and Florida this weekend to cover. And, I should have stopped in Fayetteville on the way home to watch Missouri State go in there and actually give it to Arkansas for 3 quarters.
You seen that guy bite that guy's nose?
Yeah, I could have seen that too. It really could have been,
it could have been you. It could have been your nose.
I've got a sizable nose for him to bite, so that could have happened. But no, I feel like that those 2 games would have been the ones that I was just sitting there just shaking in my head, like, how did this happen? Because honestly, both of those games, Florida, South Florida, should have been a runaway. Arkansas should have beat Missouri State by 50. But, here we are. One had a couple-point win and one had an 11-point win. Like, just – I don't know, man. It was a tragic weekend if I'd have been betting, so I'd have been pissed.
Well, Spend, I was with you on – I did do the Wake Forest team total over. I think I saw y'all talking about it in the Discord. But maybe the most fun – let's get positive. Maybe the most fun game of the day in the Discord was that Syracuse-Purdue game. Yeah. And I think I was on Syracuse. It was either money line or minus 1.5. I think a lot of people were on Syracuse. Yeah, halftime, it's 9-3. End of the third, it's 10-9. And then 6 touchdowns erupt. Purdue gets the lead with like a minute left, and they get back-to-back unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. So they're kicking off from the 10 or the 15. Syracuse starts at the 50. A couple plays later, beautiful pass, just drops it in the bucket in the front corner of the end zone. Syracuse wins. Unbelievable cover. And then to make it even worse, like I said, after 3 quarters, they had 19 total points. The over-under was 59.5. How about 42 points in the fourth quarter to crush the under?
Crazy.
Another great bet that was in the Discord. We had Gutsy Picks Cash come in and drop some alpha. So aside from the Auburn game that he dropped Western Kentucky with the points, so 7, and the money line. So I'm like, screw it, jump on them both. Western Kentucky took the lead with 11.5 left in the second quarter. Indiana tied it with 1.5 minutes left. Go to overtime. Indiana blocks the field goal and then goes down and kicks a field goal. So I split on the bet, and it's a great bet. And so it's a great call by Gutsy, even on the money line. How do y'all play? Do y'all ever do that where you bet the money line and the points? And how do y'all play that? We were talking about it afterwards. Do you double up that bet on the money line? Because I ended up pushing. Y'all got any thoughts on how y'all play that?
I typically, like, if I'm in that situation, like usually I'm not going to do, if it's a tighter line, I'm probably not going to do. I'm going to just do money line. I won't do the spread. Mm-hmm. 7's kind of that spot, but I usually do my bigger bet on the point spread, and then a smaller bet with the plus money. That if it hits, it's a really nice day. If it doesn't, a smaller win, and you're still kind of happy. But it's tough doing it both ways like that. But it's one of those situations where if you're on West Kentucky without the points last week, you're really pissed. Like, man, I should have made money this week. I should have made a lot of money. Instead, I'm a loser. I didn't make anything. That's why I like taking the points too with it. If you really feel conviction on a big underdog like that, but I usually just do a small line.
In Western Kentucky was crushed. It was like they should have been up big early, and they were just
they played well.
Couldn't get out of their way.
Yeah, I mean, if I love a pick, if I love an underdog, then I agree with Spen there. Where like I'll usually, if I'm taking 3 units on the cover, and then money line, I'll throw like 1. I'll sprinkle it on there if I like really believe in it. I mean, if I'm all in, like, I don't know, I must be seeing something Vegas isn't seeing, then I'll run it. But I usually like to hedge it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, my last non-nightmare cover is Vandy, baby. Vandy. They were down 28-14 at the beginning of the third quarter. Come all the way back. They won, I think, 38-28. We can go ahead and cash that.
Cash that ticket, baby.
It's going to sit in my account for like 4 more months or whatever.
I was going to say, can you actually send it in now, or do you have to wait till the season's over?
Well, with the guy I'm talking to, there's no sending it in. But I mean, if I needed the room, I'm sure I could. But a great win, Vandy. Fantastic season. It's not over yet, and we don't have to keep getting into Vandy every week. But when Missouri comes around, I guess I wish they would have done an alternate line where I could have gone over 3.5 wins. For some plus.
I love that you just said that, because actually, I was listening to Ben Men's talk like preseason. Kansas's over/under total for the season was 2.5. Mm-hmm. They've already cashed. So if you had Kansas over 2.5 wins, you're 3 weeks in, baby. You got money in your pocket already.
Go.
Unbelievable.
6
future Nebraska coach. Leipold's got him rolling.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. So
we got anything else?
I think we're solid there. So
I think that's been covered.
Look at you, though. Look at you go. Why am I still laughing at that's been covered? Oh, a clown.
It's a great line. Great line.
I wasn't working on it all day, I promise.
Hey, there we go.
The 4th spot, I guess I'll handle this one. The 4th spot, guys. Honestly, the top 25 polls out. It's real familiar at the top. Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan. Honestly, I can't argue with Michigan being 4 right now. I think Clemson's too high at 5, but other than that, when it comes to the top 5, I think that's exactly what it should look like right now.
Yeah, what's interesting to me is Oklahoma and USC. The path is set up for them based on schedule to either run the table, have a loss. It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out elsewhere, because all the predicators of, hey, what if an undefeated Georgia plays an undefeated Alabama, undefeated Ohio State plays an undefeated Michigan, and go from there. But I think Oklahoma and USC are the interesting pieces of the puzzle to see how that shakes out.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know about Oklahoma yet. I'm not a believer. I believe more in USC right now. Clemson, another team that's kind of right there. I think the top four are pretty solid, but I do think there are some teams that are kind of making us believe a little bit more. And that's why I love college football. Like this conversation we're having now and what we had 2 weeks ago is going to be completely different than it will be in 2 weeks and 3 weeks and November 1st when the first rankings are actually released. There's so much to happen right now, but I don't hate any of the rankings at this point. Like when you go beyond 10, especially beyond like 15, it's kind of any of these teams could sneak in to around the 10 spot at some point. They're all pretty good, but they also could be teams that lose a bunch of games. So like at this point, I think everything's pretty clear. There's like kind of a top tier. There's a good tier behind it. That's, I think, USC, Oklahoma. I don't know if you're ready to put in an Oklahoma State or Arkansas there yet, or Kentucky. I still can't believe Kentucky's 8th in the country. But
that's crazy.
I was about to say that too.
It's nuts, right? But I mean, I don't think there's anybody that can argue with kind of what the rankings stay right now.
Yeah.
Especially at the top. I mean, you don't know my thoughts on rankings. We'll see what happens maybe next week is the inaugural Sir Veza super sexy, super serious rankings. But, like somebody was talking about Kansas, like is what they've done not more impressive than Miami and Pitt and BYU? I just, Clemson, get out of here. Like, we'll see if you can even win this week. You shouldn't be number 5. I mean, we can look at it objectively and say, the top 4, probably should be there, but it's too early. After this week, everybody's had at least one conference game. I think we can, start gauging against competition, like true competition, instead of, Eastern Michigan had to play Arizona State. How tough could that have been?
Yeah. Maybe North Carolina and Florida State are two teams that, especially Florida State, I think they have an argument that they maybe should be ranked at this point. I don't know how good they are, but they have a couple nice wins, right? And they're playing pretty well. They kind of look the part a little bit. So maybe they're a team that maybe has an argument. And I think Carolina, if they go out and beat Notre Dame this week, because you look at what their wins are right now, and their schedule didn't look that tough necessarily on paper, but App State, a game in which they gave up a lot of points, sure, but for the most part, they were in control of that game, start to finish at App, and App's Super Bowl essentially playing North Carolina, and then a Georgia State win that was still a solid win. Georgia State's not a great team, but they're not a bad team, so they're another team that maybe could sneak in. But again, this stuff will sort itself out.
Yeah, no, you're talking about Florida State. They're 27th in the AP poll.
Yeah,
so
they're getting votes.
There we go. They're knocking on the door.
Yeah, they're knocking on the door. They're not quite there yet, but yeah, honestly, in my opinion, it's baffling to have Kentucky ranked number 8 in the country when they've only beat Florida. And Florida could honestly be 0-3 right now.
That's your Florida Gators, Doc.
Hey, you know what? It is my Florida Gators. Shout out to my buddy Rob for hyping. I mean, he absolutely gassed me up.
Had a good win
on Anthony Richardson so
great
much.
Win. Hey, that 2-point conversion play was so sick. I mean, you just got to keep that one playing.
We're going to be talking about it till at least next week.
But yeah, no. Honestly, other than that, though, big movers this week. I mean, Oregon jumped up 10 spots. Penn State jumped up. They're up 8 spots this week. That's really the big movers. Everybody else has kind of been stagnant in the top there. So, I think as you were saying, the more we get into these conference games, the more we'll, really see what's going on. So,
we've got Texas ranked 22nd because they lost real good.
Which was honestly, and I wish that I could have been here to, talk about that. But, that was honestly one of those things that I really had to dig into because I didn't know it had been done before. And it's just like that's the state of college football right now. Like, Texas loses, they're not ranked, they lose, and then all of a sudden they're in the top 25. It's like, what? Like, is that how things are going? But yeah, no.
Yeah, I heard the stat. Go ahead.
So you said it. There's the top 4, 5, 6, 7 teams, and then after that, like, is Kentucky that much different than Wake Forest? Probably not.
Right.
No, not much. The stat I heard this week, to your point, Doc, on Texas, just and your points are based on them losing, moving up. The last time that happened, where number one team won, the team they lost to was unranked and moved in. Do y'all have any idea? Have you heard this little nugget this week?
No.
It's like College of Chicago like did this or
No.
something. How long
It was Scott Frost's Nebraska team was number one. And I think the game against Missouri that they just barely snuck out a win over Missouri back in the old days. And Missouri snuck into the poll after that, although they lost.
Way.
Wow.
Hey,
okay.
Man,
there you go.
Pour one out for Mr. Frost, you know.
Can't wait to see him in Tuscaloosa.
Offensive analyst. That's right.
Hold that clipboard, sir.
You gotta think about that though, real quick. Like that's gotta be one hell of a gig. You go from coaching, you know, at the top, and then all of a sudden, you know, a year later, you're holding a clipboard on Alabama's sideline because you're now a special analyst, a special assistant to the coach.
Hey, Bill O'Brien's going to get a Power 5 job next year because of that. So, you know.
I hate Bill O'Brien.
A lot of guys have gotten good jobs, yeah.
I got some friends down in
rehab
Houston. You
program.
can talk with Dicatrio about that.
No. I don't want to talk about Bill O'Brien. I hate that man so much because of that. You know, but that's NFL talk. We're not going there.
Mm-mm.
We're not, because I'll blow a head gasket at 11 o'clock at night, and I have a sleep study to do tonight. So we're not going that route. All right.
You got to keep it down, keep it even keel.
Yeah, I gotta just hang down less. So yeah, no. But yeah, that's all I got on top 25. I don't think anybody else has any nuggets, huh?
Yeah. Keep it rolling.
That's right.
All right. So stock options on our radar we did last week, kind of the same thing. But the idea here is, what are we watching this week? Who are we paying attention to see who might go up, who might go down? I'm going to start us off here. My eyes are squarely on the Big Ten this week. We talk about the SEC playing cupcakes. Well, the Big Ten this year, a lot of the top teams right now have played the absolute bottom of college football. Now, that's fine. Michigan's still good. I think Michigan's really good. But in Minnesota, so there's a few games I'm watching. Let me just kind of go through the list I've got here. So, Minnesota, Michigan State. We saw Michigan State last week. Not a great performance at Washington. Minnesota has looked really good. And I do believe with Ibrahim at running back and Tanner Morgan, like they have a pretty good offense. They're efficient. This could be a pretty good year for them, but they played absolutely nobody. So I need to see what they can do here. Okay. That's one. Michigan, Maryland, same thing. Michigan has looked like world beaters, but again, they have played the bottom of college football. In Maryland, their offenses look pretty good. They've got they got a couple of decent wins, right? I mean, how good or bad are they, right? They will give at least a challenge to Michigan's defense this week, which they haven't seen yet. So how does Michigan respond? That's another one. And then, of course, you have to be paying attention to Iowa and Rutgers, a game with a total of 34.5. How could you turn away from a game like that? 34.5 points, and still it'd be hard to convince me to go over. So my eyes are squarely on the Big Ten right now. I need to see exactly what this conference is made of this week. I think there's some good teams, but I've not seen anything in terms of competition yet from some of the top teams. So this week will show us some stuff.
Man, I preach that spend, man. I tell you, like I'm with you, and I'll dive more a little bit into that Minnesota-Michigan State matchup later. Tanner Morgan, 12th year senior, still hanging around. But when you look over at Ohio State offense, to me, it is, like obviously I put my heart out there and talked about a team that I hate more than anything and said their offense is going to be thermonuclear, struggling at Notre Dame. Toledo, who was, of course it's a different year, but last year they were a top 30 team defensively, which if you can believe that. They hung 70 on them. They rung up 800 yards of offense. This Wisconsin team has played absolutely nobody and lost to Wazoo at home. I need to see is Ohio State going to hang 60 on these? Are they going to drop a 60 burger on them? So, I mean, I'm interested to see that one. I feel like that is going to get ugly, but I'd like to see them kind of hold up their end of the deal. And to your point on Michigan, Maryland, Maryland offense, phenomenal. Fun fact for you, in the past 5 years, they have the 12th best September record in America. They haven't made a lot of bowls, so don't look at the rest of the year. But September, they get the job done. So should be a good matchup in Ann Arbor.
I mean, you could say that about Vandy this year, real good in September. But Spend, I mean, it's interesting on that line being under 34. Like usually when you see numbers that low or super high, the cover rates of going under and going over are actually very good. But I mean, 34 is so low.
You couldn't play.
It's the working man bet. Like it's the working man bet. They're begging you.
I definitely could. Like, I think we should just all do it. Think of the stories. Think of the tales.
If the Discord's behind it, I'll get behind it too. But I'm not going to hold my nose and just
let's look a little more into it. We don't even make any rash decisions. I got a nice little slate here. I'm looking at Baylor, Iowa State. Let's just take a Big 12 team.
34 points or not 34. I think the total was real low on that one, but yeah.
Let's just start eliminating people from the Big 12. That'll be potentially kind of boring matchup. We'll see. UCLA and Colorado. Talk about a not exciting game from some not exciting teams again. But I am interested. They're going on the road. I hate, laying double digits on the road, and I'm not playing the game, but UCLA is a 21.5-point favorite. Let's see how good they're going to be, because this is the kind of game you should be able to go in there and do whatever you want. And so we'll see if they struggle. I mean, Colorado hasn't shown a pulse. We'll see if they rise up, but I'd like to see how UCLA plays. I got Texas and Tech on the radar. I'm feeling good about Texas. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Oregon at Washington State. Washington State beat Wisconsin. They're unranked. Is that disrespect for Washington State? Is that disrespect for Wisconsin? I don't know. I would expect Oregon to roll, but let's see. Can Washington State, be kind of for real in the Pac-12? Also, on the other hand, is Oregon not? Right here in Houston, Rice in Houston. Rice has usually been a doormat as of late. They've won 2 games this year. Houston, things just seem in disarray. They don't seem fast. They don't seem like their head's in it. If you're watching the game, which I don't know that I recommend, a wide receiver for Rice, Luke McCaffrey, is Christian's brother.
Yeah.
Last week, 10 catches, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns.
There we go.
If you are watching
Nebraska
the game,
guy,
if you've got CBS Sports, check that out. Wisconsin, Ohio State was on my list. USC, Oregon State also on my list. That's a game I wish was in November when it's miserable in Oregon State and weird things happen at night. And then Duke, Kansas. I jumped on the Kansas bandwagon last week. They did whatever they wanted against Houston. And I wonder if it's a situation where it's like, number one, maybe they're good or pretty good. Number two, it's like if you don't know, you're just running the plays and you're wide open and you're executing and it's all working. And I think that might be what Kansas has got going on, and I think they're going to keep it rolling.
Sir Veza loves college football. That's what I've got out of that. He's watching every game this weekend.
You know what's funny is because he literally took like 3 of the games that I was looking at. So now pretty much I'm just going to piggyback off what you said. And then one that caught my eye, because my big thing this week was Pac-12 ranked teams going on the road. Just USC, Oregon, all that kind of stuff.
Utah, baby.
Yeah, Utah as well. One that caught my eye, 3-0 Indiana going to Cincinnati. I can't believe Cincinnati is 16.5-point favorites against a Big Ten team. Is that just Indiana's just got an inflated record, or is Cincinnati really going to be that good? I mean, Cincinnati's only lost to Arkansas, but, Indiana beat Illinois. They beat Idaho, Western Kentucky, I'm curious to watch that game. As wild as it sounds, I'm actually really intrigued to watch that game Saturday afternoon.
I'm going to look into that.
There we go.
I think I kind of like it. I got to watch it last week against Western Kentucky.
So basically,
because I didn't buy Cincinnati.
Yeah,
I didn't buy Cincinnati at the beginning of the season.
Right.
So you lost all your studs.
I don't think Indiana's that good. I mean, I think they're inflated record. I mean, you just look at the matchup with Western Kentucky. I think they have some decent wins, right? Like good start. They gave up 550 yards of offense to Western Kentucky in that loss, like almost 7 yards per play. So not that Cincinnati necessarily has the best offense, but I think they'll be able to move the ball fine, but their defense is much better, right? So I just think Indiana will have trouble. But it is an interesting matchup, and it is a big line that catches your eye.
That's
30, 40, 20 is a cover.
I mean, Indiana, though, I mean, you look at them, they got a horseshoe up their ass, because like they should have lost to Illinois. They should have lost to Western Kentucky. So, but Cincinnati, the same flip side, I mean, they could have gone in and won at Arkansas. They played really well. So, it really wonky. Is that game in Cincinnati, I assume?
Yeah.
Should be a fun game, man.
Yeah, no, that was definitely one that I caught my eye. But other than that, I mean, I don't want to talk about Texas because, that's my team. So I'd rather just not. I'm honestly just waiting for them to go ahead and probably go to Tech and lose this weekend. So, I'm not buying the hype right now because, Hudson Carr, I can't stand him. So that's that. But yeah, other than that, I mean, we'll talk about Florida, Tennessee, A&M, Arkansas. Other than that, though, honestly, my eyes are just going to be on the Pac-12 this week. That late night Pac-12 after dark. I got to find out which game it is because that's going to be where I'm most invested this weekend, honestly.
I think Utah, Arizona State is late. Oregon's at 3 my time, and USC I think is a late game too. So there might be a bunch of action.
Yeah.
I got one more to keep on your radar, guys. In case this is not really a stock options one because the result of this game won't affect my opinion of either team, but Hawaii and New Mexico State play tonight or on Saturday. And if you want to talk about two of the worst teams, okay, I've already pointed out Hawaii, right? But Hawaii's got one of the bottom 5 offenses and bottom 5 defenses. So they can't do anything well. New Mexico State, their offense is a pretty nice and crisp 94th nationally. So maybe they're able to move the football. But their defense is their offense is at the bottom. So it's a battle of teams that just don't want to do anything well. So the New Mexico State's I think, what are they, -5? I can't find a side on that, but I might end up just having to pick one because I'm going to pay attention to it because it's going to be ugly. But it's one of those games that could end up being masterful when it's all said and done because both teams are just so bad.
It's down to 4.5 now.
Is it? Okay.
Oh, man.
That Duquesne win.
In.
What's the over-under on that?
53.
Yeah. See, but again, I lean under. I think under's might be a pretty good bet on that one because I think both offenses are net, but both defenses are so bad. So it's who wins? Who wins?
Great
right?
game, yeah.
Wait, so Hawaii's starting quarterback hasn't thrown a touchdown all year? He's thrown 4 interceptions.
He's like Anthony Richardson.
Well, what's funny is because you started talking about that game, so I pulled it up and it has passing, rushing, and receiving leaders. And so Hawaii's quarterback's thrown for 398 yards and 4 interceptions. So it's how bad has New Mexico State been? And now I'm looking, and they've scored a total of 32 points through 4 games. So.
I think they're better coached under Jerry Kill, and they actually play a little bit of defense, not a lot, but I think they get after it and they actually play hard. They just don't have a ton of talent, so I give them the edge there. But it's hard to figure out because their offense is just so inept that you just trying to figure out how they can score even against the worst defense in the country. It doesn't. You try to wrap your head around that, and you can't make sense of it. So
man,
I'll be watching.
Shout out Jerry Kill. Good to have him back, man. Glad he's healthy. That's crazy. It's always that guy knows ball. He's just sticking around.
He does.
Sounds like some bizarro SEC football.
It really does, honestly. I kind of like that for sure.
Timmy Chang versus Jerry Kill. Saturday night.
There we go.
It's what you've been waiting for. And when you wake up at 8 a.m., you have 14 hours before that kicks. You've got a full day. You go to Home Depot or whatever you got to do.
Yeah, that's right.
No doubt.
Literally. You can do all the chores on that one. All right, so let's go ahead and move on.
There we go. All right. Well, hey, I'm going to kick this one off for us. Kingdom Conviction. It's kind of just a couple other bets that we like outside of our main picks, outside of our locks. Just a couple things we're keeping an eye on, something we believe in. I got 2 for you tonight. One is Coastal Carolina -2.5, playing Georgia State. Georgia State's had a much tougher slate so far, but I feel like this line is a little disrespectful to Coastal Carolina and what they've done so far. Grayson McCall's fantastic. The offense has looked really strong, ringing up over 30 a game. Georgia State's played a really tough slate, yes, but winless. I think Coastal comes out of there 7+. 2.5 feels like a small line. flipping over to a game I already mentioned, Ohio State. Wisconsin has played Jerry Kill's New Mexico State, and that's one of their wins. That's actually their only win at non-FCS level. Defense has looked brutal. Offense has looked worse. Ohio State looks like they might be taking this next gear. It's in Columbus. That one looks like a smackdown. So I'm riding Ohio State. I know it's 18. That's a lot of points, but I think that they are starting to take that next step. But those two I like. Y'all fill me in on what you like.
I'll rip it off. I mean, I don't know about y'all. I went 3-0 on my conviction bets last week, and I'll be honest. I don't know that I love these. I was looking, and I almost came with nothing because it's like, honestly, if this is supposed to be our favorite, some of our favorite bets, why give you anything less than that? And the only thing I kind of settled on is Oklahoma minus 12.5. I really enjoyed watching, other than being Oklahoma, I enjoyed watching like what they were doing on offense. I know it was against Nebraska, but they were making plays. Dylan Gabriel looked really good, throwing the ball all over the field. Kansas State just coming off an embarrassing performance. Now you have to go to Norman. I feel like this line in previous years would be like 18 or 19. And I know Kansas State does play OU tough. But I do like OU in this one. Another one that I had written down, but I think I wouldn't, do your own research on this. Washington minus 13.5 against Stanford. I think it's at home for Washington. I'm not a Stanford fan. I don't believe in them. Washington had things clicking last week. The only thing giving me pause is Stanford had last week off. So just gives them a little week to game plan. Is Washington a little fat and happy off that? So, look at that if you want. But OU, 12.5, lay it.
I've got 2. We've got a ranked team on the road this week getting points. Baylor is getting 2.5 points at Iowa State this week. Okay. I like that. And then there was one more I liked down here when I was scrolling through. TCU, SMU. TCU is getting 2 points. It's pretty much a home game for both teams, They kind of share the area, but I think TCU is a better team than SMU, honestly. I know SMU's been absolutely lighting the end zone on fire. Mordecai, their quarterback's been putting up numbers. But I like TCU. TCU, 2 points. I mean, the over-under on that game is 70.5. So there's going to be a lot of points scored, but I think it comes down to probably a field goal, maybe 4 points. I think TCU takes it, and I just don't see how you can't bet Baylor getting 2.5 at Iowa State. So those are my 2.
Sonny Dykes going against his old team.
I will jump in there. I mean, Iowa State just plays tough, and I wouldn't take I'm not sitting here taking the other side. I haven't bought into Baylor yet. That'd be my only hesitation. But getting points on the road with a pretty good football team, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and Nelly, we've been like on the same wavelength for most of our picks, but I'm probably going to go opposite you on that Georgia State game. I just think Coastal Carolina's defense isn't very good, and Georgia State's a pretty good team. They haven't won a game, obviously, and they just kind of had a little bit of misfortune. But
tough slate.
It's going to be a good game. But I think Georgia State wins that one. But I'm not going to fade it. I don't love it, so I'm just going to throw it out there. But a couple that I'm watching. And again, Sir Veza, like you said, like I don't love anything right now. Like Wednesday's still pretty early in the week to where a few things I've identified, but like I'm still thinking for most of the week to Friday and getting some picks in. So again, check the Discord because we'll like to share stuff there. But a couple games that I'm watching that I kind of leaning into right now. Temple UMass again. You'll get the whole theme of me going against bad teams, but Temple now is now starting Kurt Warner's son at quarterback, EJ Warner.
Really?
And he's playing a little bit better. Like they had a Georgia transfer that started the season off. He was not very good, did not move the football. They got shut out at Duke. They got Warner's kid in there now. He's moving the football a little bit. UMass is a bad team, right? So I'm looking at 2 different angles. Like I either like Temple minus the 9.5. It's a big line though, and I don't trust Temple enough to probably lay the points. But I like the under to 43.5 because UMass's offense is not very good. Temple has, again, they're gonna probably run the football. There's gonna be a lot of running clock in this one, so I kind of like the under there. Hawaii, New Mexico State, as we talked about, I still lean under in that. It's 54.5. When I saw it, maybe at 53 now. I just think this is going to be a game that, again, not a lot of offenses there. And I think New Mexico State will try to probably run the clock. Hawaii's going to throw it. They like to throw the ball. We know Timmy Chang's offense. But I think that's going to be one where points will be hard to come by for a little while. So 54.5 seems like a lot. East Carolina, another team I'm thinking about right now against Navy. I always hate going against an option team, right? Because these teams just aren't prepared for them typically. But Navy's pretty bad this year. They don't have a lot of talent. They have not looked good in the first 2 games. They've had a week off, so they can prepare. But I think East Carolina is a decent team this year, and they've had some really nice performances so far. So kind of looking at that one. And then the Wake Clemson game we're going to get into later, so I'm not going to give you my pick on that necessarily. But I think the way I'm looking at that one is Sam Hartman. I'm looking at his props. So I don't know what they are yet. I don't think they've been posted or I haven't seen them yet. But either his passing, either attempts or possibly yards. I think he's going to be throwing the ball a lot because Clemson's going to stop that run. They probably will be playing from behind a little bit. I just think Wake, their opportunity to win that game is going to be throwing the football. So in that one, I'm looking probably at Sam Hartman props is kind of the way I'm leaning. So those are all games I'm kind of thinking about right now. I'll kind of lock them in as we get a little bit closer, but just some things that are on my radar at this point.
Nice.
I think something we've talked about before, and you kind of brought it up where it's Wednesday, it's a little early, just for the people watching, for the Knights, for anybody catching this, if you're trying to find that edge, the earlier, the better. And that's just the truth about it. And I mean, you got to do your research. I mean, if you don't have 10 computers in front of you, like spitting out the algorithm of all the plays, it's hard to do. But, the earlier in the week you can find that line, get it before the public pushes it one way or the other.
Yeah, and I feel like Sunday's that day, right? Like you get in Sunday and Monday is kind of where you can find those numbers. And then once you get to like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it kind of settles, and Friday, Saturday, some late movement as money starts coming in. Like, the guys that are just like, hey, I'm ready to bet some football. Let's go ahead and throw our money down. But the reason I like waiting a little later, and you'll see a lot of my picks in the Discord, I like team totals. I like some props. So those come out a little bit later in the week, so I can't really hop on those early on. Sure. So those are some ones that I'll kind of pinpoint later on.
I'm not going to lie. I actually have not dealt with team totals or college prop bets because honestly, like I said, this is like the first year that I've got like legal betting. So, but if you're looking for the early, the early lines and the early action guys, if you've got a night, Action Network, they've got all the lines, all the spreads, every sports book. You can literally look at everything. It gives you everything run down top to bottom. Check that out early in the week. If you're looking for those lines and you're like, I think this is just too sweet to pass up. That's the perfect time, in my opinion, and it'll really make some moves. So, there's my Action Network, my little Action Network plug because I love the site, dude. I'm on it all the time. Yeah. I think it's fantastic. So
I was on there today for sure.
Let's move on. This one's going to hurt.
Yeah, throw it up.
This one's going to hurt me. Where's my guy at? It's okay.
Jigga. The picks time, baby.
Yep. Picks time. Here we go. 6-14.
You're catching
Nelly. You're coming.
Sir Veza, baby. Cruising.
I started 1-6, 1-5. Like, honestly, I feel like I'm doing okay now. Okay, Sir Veza started off hot as hell, but we're catching SpendMyDollar. Nelly's looking good. He's batting 500 right now.
Let me just say here that these picks, like Wednesday, is very tough, right? So, like, trying to make up your mind on these big games that we probably don't want to bet on necessarily anyway because there's no edge, and then trying to do it Wednesday. Like as soon as we got off last week, A&M, Miami lost their top receiver. A&M changed quarterbacks. Like it was completely Thursday morning was completely different than it was Wednesday night. So I'm making excuses, for my picks.
I was going to say,
so far, but I left last week going, I want to change like 2 or 3 of these, but it is what it is. But it is hard. Like the locks are what I want to be judged on, right, Nelly?
Yeah.
There we go. That's right.
This is sometimes maybe alpha, a lot of beta. A lot coming.
A lot of beta on this thing.
We're definitely riding the beta. Well, let's go ahead and start off the The first, that's not what I'm looking for. We'll go ahead and start off the first week, the first game of the week. Tomorrow night, West Virginia at Virginia Tech. So, West Virginia getting a point, or no, I'm sorry. Virginia Tech's getting 1.5 points at home. That's a Saturday game? I thought that was a Thursday game. No, it's definitely a Thursday game. Our graphics a little screwed up here, but yeah, no. So that's the Thursday night game. It looks like it's settled in at the 1.5 mark. I think Slovis and West Virginia, I think they have a decent game. Honestly, I do. If this was just a regular week, I probably honestly wouldn't even watch the game or even pay attention to it when the scoreboard popped up, the next day. But, doing this show now, I'm watching these Thursday games that normally I wouldn't watch early on in the season. So, Okay.
Well, I know you met JT Daniels in West Virginia there.
Wait, why did I say Slovis?
You were
former
thinking
SC quarterbacks that aren't worth it.
That's right.
Backyard brawls.
That's right.
I'm still thinking Pittsburgh.
Well, it's former
enough.
SC guys, like Sir Veza said.
They bounce around a lot. This is a great game. Like I wonder what this is going to mean for Neil Brown. That's where my eyes are. And there's already talk about is this a make or break game for him? I think we've already had that comment tonight. It could be. I mean, it could be. Virginia Tech. Their defense has been really good so far. That's really the one thing they can lean on. It's like a top 10 defense so far. But again, the sample size is small and who they played is not great. So I don't quite know what they're made of. West Virginia's has to be able to establish a run in this game. Like that's the key for them. So can they do that? I don't know. I started the season saying I was backing Neil Brown. I thought he's a good coach. But I'm actually picking Virginia Tech in this game. I think just at the home game, it's going to be an electric atmosphere. I think we know how Thursday nights. That's like a Virginia Tech specialty, right? Thursday nights, and it's a team down the road, not too far from them. So I'm going to take the points. I don't love my pick here, like I have for most of the picks so far this year, but I'm going to go Virginia Tech.
My handicap is super easy. I won't waste much time. The alpha that I get funneled to me comes in about Wednesday afternoon, and they like Virginia Tech -1.5. And so I love it. Big time.
Oh man! Well, I'll be quick too. I guess I'm going against the alpha, so call me the omega here. I don't know, but say we're cruising out. I believe in JT Daniels and that offense just enough to get the job done. They're going to be playing under Sandman. It's going to be electric atmosphere, but I'm going to lay the points, take them on the road. I think Neil Brown's coaching for his job the next couple of weeks.
Yep, I've got West Virginia also. So. I guess we got 2 and 2. So there we go.
That's right.
So we either have the alphas or the betas. So that.
I'm on Sir Veza's side, so I'm feeling pretty good right
now.
Yeah,
which means you're probably
that's right.
Winning, so.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go. So hey, more power to you. We got Clemson going to Wake Forest. Clemson 7-point favorites on the road. Guys, who you like?
I'll start it off here. I think we got 7.5. I'm not sure.
We gotta have that hook to make our picks win or lose.
That's right. I need that.
But I mean, I've been ripping on Clemson since early last year. I don't see any reason to stop now, and this will just be like a one prove it game to me for Clemson. I haven't got too much eyes on Wake Forest yet. I'm certainly not betting this game, but I just don't believe in Clemson, so I'm going to take the points.
Hey, there you go. Like you said, the hook, that's what it's all about to me. 7's a big number in betting, especially to ranked teams. Give me the half. I love Sam Hartman. That Clemson D-line is a hurricane. I do think Clemson wins this game, but I think it's going to be a tight matchup back and forth. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, to me, I feel like this is just a bad matchup for Wake Forest. I think what they do well, Clemson can stop, right? Like that's the biggest thing for me. Now, this is, again, agreeing with you guys, this is what I'm excited to watch because I want to see just exactly what these two teams are. For me, Clemson should win this game in cover. Like if they are a team that they think they are and that a lot of people think they are, this is a game they should cover. But Wake Forest also, like, they're still disrespected in the ACC. This is a team that was in the ACC championship last year. Sam Hartman's one of the top quarterbacks in the country. Looked really good since he's returned from the medical issues he's been dealing with. So I hate the matchup for Wake Forest is the biggest thing this comes down to. And I don't know that it's going to be a game that Clemson will be in control of the entire day. But ultimately, I think Clemson pulls out the win and pulls out the cover. I just think that it's just a better matchup overall. But again, the prop is Sam Hartman. He's going to be throwing the football around everywhere.
There we go.
Give me Clemson. Give me the points. I don't care. They cover. We're moving on. This is such an interesting game. Notre Dame traveling to North Carolina. This one right here is interesting. And we had it as a pick'em earlier. Is it 2 now, or do we still pick'em?
It's 1.5.
Yeah, 1.5. So we'll lock it into just to have that hook. I'll start off with this one. Notre Dame. Again, back to that conversation earlier with the Cal matchup. I just think they're in search of something on offense. They started to get a little bit of push. I saw a number like their yards before contact for the first 2 games was like for the running game was like 0.4 yards before contact. The second half against Cal, I think it ended up being like 2 or 3 yards before contact. So they started getting a push. They made some adjustments. So maybe that's a positive. I just wonder, can Notre Dame take advantage of a bad North Carolina defense? I mean, FAMU did. So you would think that Notre Dame can, no matter who they thought at quarterback. But again, is this a game where if North Carolina gets ahead and gets up by a couple scores, 10 points, 14, can Notre Dame play the style they need to come back in the matchup? North Carolina hadn't shown me, though, under Mac Brown that they can get ahead like that. This is the spot they've been in where they haven't jumped out and taken control at home. This is one of their biggest home games they've had in a long, long time. And you know what they've been talking about this week? Drake May made a comment this week that people that go to NC State go there because they can't get in North Carolina. And like, that's what he's been talking about in the media this week. So there's some distractions off the field for them when they should be focused on their biggest game of the year. So make of that what you will. I don't know if that means anything, but I'm going with North Carolina just because I think they're a better offensive team and they should be able to win this matchup, but I'm not sold on them. And this is a spot they fall short in typically, but I'm rolling with the Heels.
Spend, I'm with you 1,000%. We're just going to keep ticking up those W's. You said it, and for me, it's just North Carolina can score. They're used to scoring and know how to put the ball in the end zone. So when it comes down to it and you need that score late, if it's a tight game, I don't trust Notre Dame to do it by a long shot. And so North Carolina lay the points.
Whew. Man, I tell you what, I've been in lockstep with Spend on a lot this year, and I don't seeing Sir Veza's record, I don't like going against it, but I'm on the other side on this one too. I think defense travels. I think Notre Dame's defense is borderline elite. I think their offense is trash, but the good news is North Carolina's defense is also trash. So I think that in a tightly contested game, I think Notre Dame can find a way to squeak one out. I think Marcus Freeman early on is also kind of coaching for his life out there. I know he's only in his first season, but I think he's got to find a way to win this one.
Well, it just so happens, guys, that we're split again right down the middle. But I feel like this is probably my egg on the face game for actually picking Notre Dame, which means they will, in fact, probably get blown out. So there you guys go with that. I agree with.
Let me throw you one more just thing to pay attention to. Okay. For anybody that actually wants to bet this game. Keep an eye on just the injury report. Josh Downs, North Carolina's best wide receiver, is still questionable. He's been back at practice, but he's a guy that they absolutely have to have offensively for them in big matchups. And then also Antoine Green, another big receiver for them. He's in better shape, expected to play, but they're still both kind of a questionable, probably a probable, I guess. But still, if Josh Downs doesn't play, it could change the tenor of this game. So just keep an eye on that.
And we're moving on. Bro, this Home Depot commercial just started playing in my ear, and it freaked me out. Anyways, we got Florida traveling to Old Rocky Top. Florida getting 10.5 points. It's wild how things have turned on Florida really quick. 10.5 points. I'm going to go last on this because I feel like I have a couple things I want to say about it. So.
Man, well, I can dive right in. So, to me, it's very hard for me. I live in the heart of big orange country. All of my friends are Tennessee fans. I watch every game, and Florida has this, I don't know if they have a voodoo doll or what they have over Tennessee, but if you look back, good and bad, they beat Tennessee. I don't have enough confidence to throw that, even though that 310 looks tasty, to see Florida actually win this game. But 10.5 is a lot of points. I think Tennessee is a better team. I think Tennessee is a more complete team. But there's just something about that voodoo. And your boy AR-15 has to get a passing touchdown, right? Like eventually. So maybe it's this game.
So full disclosure, and I was telling Nelly about this earlier, like this exact game, Florida at Tennessee, when the teams are good, or at least, nobody's season is busted right now. This is one of my bucket list games to attend. Neyland Stadium, 110,000. I mean, I want it to be full. I don't want to go when Tennessee's 4-6 and nobody cares. Right. I want to go when this place is rocking. I found this on Twitter, so I assume it's true. Tennessee has never been more than a touchdown favorite against Florida. Wow. Now they're 10.5. All week leading up to this, Tennessee, I think did I jump on them last week on the bandwagon, but I've been liking what I've seen from Tennessee. And the more I just sat on, I'm like, I can't lay 10.5. Florida's a pretty good team. They beat Utah. They're not going to, be scared going into Neyland Stadium. I just think 10.5 is far too much. And, sometimes they say it's the harder bet. That's the good bet. And so taking the 10.5, it was really tough for me to do, but I think it's the right side.
Sir Veza, you got a beautiful mind tonight. You know that? You're locked in. And I'm agreeing with you. If you're a fan of football in the 90s, like this is one of the matchups that was always, define the season, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm with you on that. A couple reasons why I'm on Florida. Tennessee, still hard to believe how bad they've been against their rivals, Florida and Alabama. Georgia too, but especially Florida and Alabama. They've won one time against Florida in 17 tries, right? So this has been a completely lopsided game. And all of a sudden, Florida's a 10.5 point dog in a series they've dominated for a long time. So again, show me Tennessee before I'm going to back you in a spot like this. But a couple of things, like you have to get Anthony Richardson involved running the football. Like that's his strength. Like I know that Billy Napier said this week that like our quarterback situations, why we don't put him at risk so much, like just saying, hey, if he goes down, we're pretty much, SOL. But you have to put it out there in a game like this, right? So you have to give him the football. He's your playmaker. Let him kind of dictate your offense. So that's number one. I look last year, like at that Tennessee game, Emory Jones, he's gone, right? Shout out Sir Veza, I know he's your boy now. He had 15 carries for 144 yards. So Tennessee had trouble defending that rushing quarterback. So maybe Florida can exploit that again. And I just think Billy Napier has been really good as an underdog overall. Like go back to his Louisiana days. Like he's been good in the spot. So I'm not, you can't swing too far either way in college football, right? Can't get too high or too low on a team. Florida hasn't looked great. Tennessee has been pretty good, but I'm just not buying that Tennessee is this much better than Florida at this point.
By the way, this game opened at 4.5.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was, yeah.
Yeah, it opened at 4.5, and I was actually pulling up the money percentages on it. But honestly, in my opinion, this game is honestly going to come down to, in my opinion, two quarterbacks, Hooker and Richardson, that I do think both will end up being first-round picks in the future. Hooker's played very well so far this year, and I do think he's a very solid quarterback. But yeah, dude, 10.5 is just entirely too much money, or too many points for me to put down, and it's looking like 61% of the money. Actually, people are hammering the Florida money line. So just a little heads up there. The spread's looking actually both the money line and the spread. It's about 60-40 on Florida to Tennessee. So there's just a little tidbit of info for you there.
Well, if Tennessee can't beat them ever, sounds like a pretty good bet to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're not wrong there. And also the 62 over. 83% of money is being put on the over here. So watch it end up being a 28-24 game.
Yeah.
So I like that. I think it's a game that either goes like it's like 35-10 Tennessee, or it's Florida's got a chance to win the game in the fourth quarter with like 2 minutes left. Like I don't feel like it's going to be a game that's kind of right on the edge of 10 points. I think it's one way or the other.
Yep.
Agree 1,000%.
Let's move on. Little Big Ten action. Minnesota going to Michigan State. Okay, there it is.
A Nelly special right here.
I'm not even saying anything. I'm just gonna hang out and let you guys talk on this one.
I'd say I can't wait to talk about this one, and it's gonna blow everybody away. And it breaks my heart, but I'm actually on the Spartans in this game. Like, it's gonna sound crazy. It breaks my heart to say it, but a couple important points. So going out to Washington, Mel Tucker, third highest paid coach in America, overall 500 record, career to date. Interesting decision. Goes out there. Michael Penix goes wild on him. 400 yards, 6 touchdowns. Secondary's trash, continues to be trash. Mel Tucker comes out and says, hey, I guess I'm a horseshit coach. So love that. It was a great conference. I clipped that, I have that playing in my head as I go to sleep at night. But they were missing Jacob Slade. They were missing Xavier Henderson. They were missing Jaden Reed. All of them, per message boards, are supposed to be back this week. One thing that they do well, is how I like to refer to Michigan State, is stop the run. Really good run defense so far, top 25. Muhammad Ibrahim, great running back. They're going to try and stop that. Altman Bell's out for Minnesota, their star wide receiver. They're seeking a 7th year for him, 7th year redshirt. So he'll be back, selling AARP before too long. But, I think State's set up. They're always about hashtag disrespect with the K. State will find a way to win this one. I hate it, but that's just unfortunately the reality.
I'm going to say a lot of things that just don't make sense when they all add up. Really quick, I didn't bring this up earlier when we were talking about Washington. Kalen DeBoer, the last 6 years, his record against the point spread as an OC or a head coach, 53, 22, and 1. Whew, pretty good.
That's pretty strong, yeah.
Man.
I took Minnesota, and I think probably part of the reason is because they were my lock of the week last week.
Yeah,
I enjoyed watching them just score a million points, and I feel like it's going to continue. But Michigan State's got to have some pride. I do worry. I mean, a lot of Mel Tucker hate out there. Michigan State's going to have some pride. They're getting some points. I think this was the flip side where the tougher bet for me to make was to just go against what I thought and go with Michigan State. But I didn't. So Minnesota, I don't really have a great reason other than, life's hard. Yeah.
Go for it. Sure.
I just want to say my reason for going for Minnesota is quite simple. PJ Fleck. I'm riding with Fleck. I'm riding with Minnesota. I know, but I think Michigan State's overrated, man. And I think Minnesota, they get the job done here on the road.
Yeah, I'm going Minnesota too. I don't have a great reason. Don't love it either way. This is a classic Big Ten matchup. I was surprised these two teams haven't played in 5 years. That kind of surprised me when I went back and looked at their history. They haven't played a lot. I think the COVID year they were supposed to play, and that one got canceled. But I just think Ibrahim is now in that Heisman conversation. Like, if you're looking for a guy that's still not in the top 5 in odds, and you're looking for maybe an outside guy, maybe this is a good time to take him before a matchup like this. If he does go off and rush for 150 in this game, he's all of a sudden going to be more front and center. But overall, I just think this is just a balanced offense with Minnesota. Just not completely sold on State quite yet. So again, don't love this one. I just think Minnesota's got a little bit better offense, and I trust Ibrahim run the football more than anybody else in the field probably. So I'll go Minnesota.
And there we go. I hope I'm wrong on this one and everybody comes out winning, because would love to see how that goes.
In our last game of the evening, we're going to Arlington. I'm not going to lie, I honestly might drive over to Arlington for this game, because the more I think about it, the more this actually sounds like a game that could be enjoyable. We got Arkansas and A&M. I can't – go ahead.
You're Hogs, man.
Hey, you know what? Right now –
our Hogs.
Right now, woo pig suey. I can't believe A&M is favored in this game, to be honest with you. But I guess that's the Missouri State effect, as they'd say. But I think the Hogs can score. I don't think A&M can. So that's why, honestly, that's plain and simple why I'm taking the Hogs here. I think they can score, and I think A&M's going to have trouble.
Yeah, so I don't put really hardly any stock into last week's Arkansas game. I kind of, they ran away with it at the end. For whatever reason, I think they were probably overlooking it, didn't care. I'm not putting full stock in that game that Arkansas played their hardest for 4 quarters. Also kind of shocked that A&M is favored here, but I was super shocked they were favored last week, like very shocked. But again, I think Arkansas's run game is going to be too strong. I do think A&M is going to keep up through the air. I think this could even turn out into a shootout. I mean, if you're getting really crazy, let's look over that 49. But also depends how much you've been drinking. But I've got Arkansas. I got a question for you, Spend. I mean, this is a big game early. A&M's already got a loss. Getting into SEC play, who needs it more, or do they both need it more? I mean, is this one whoever loses, just like forget about it? Your chances of winning the West are toast. I mean, how do you see this? And not only your pick, but how do you see it in the SEC at large?
I think it means more for A&M to win this game, kind of with where they are right now.
Yep.
Arkansas, though, I feel like they have a chance in the West. I don't think that they have a great chance, but I think they have a chance to compete. And I think even more so than maybe A&M. Maybe A&M, if you look at just their style of football, maybe they can muck it up against Alabama, and whoever they run out at quarterback can have their game of their life, like Calzada did last year, and they got a chance to win it late. Like, that's possible. I just think maybe Arkansas secondary is going to be a problem when they face a team like Alabama, even though Bama's receivers aren't great, but Bryce should be able to pick them apart, 15 yards at a time. So I think overall, this is a big game for both teams, but I think for Arkansas, it means a little bit more for them in the big scheme of things. But I think for A&M, it means a lot to them just to establish hey, the trajectory of this program is still on the right track. We're not completely off. If you lose 2 years in a row to Arkansas after kind of this ugly start they've had, would be trouble. But this line just screams to me take Arkansas. Vegas is just take the Hogs. Why would you take A&M? Yeah. Which is why I'm taking A&M. I just can't go against 6.5. Yeah, and I think. And are you looking at Action Network on those numbers?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if some of those are when they very first opened in the summer, because there's a lot of movement on some of those lines. But A&M in this one, what I'm going to is Max Johnson. I think he had a pretty good game. The numbers weren't great last week, but I think he's a pretty good quarterback. Everything I've watched of him, I feel like he's a pretty good quarterback, and he can be a game changer in certain situations, which I think this is one of those weekends, right? Arkansas's pass rush is amazing, right? They've been really good with top, sack leaders in the country. Drew Sanders, the transfer from Alabama, he's coming of age now, one of the best guys, pass rushers in the conference now, but their back is not good. And I think A&M, Jimbo's got to get out of his own way this week, right? And just let him open it up and let Max throw it around. But he's a guy that can make a lot of throws, and I think he can complete 25, 30 passes in a game like this. And I think, even Sir Veza, to your point, this could end up turning into a shootout. I could easily see it being a 35-31 game before it's all said and done. I don't know if that goes there, but A&M for me is where I'm going to be. I think this thing screams take Arkansas, which is why I'm not going to screw with Vegas in this, and just going to, again, take the Aggies and just hope I'm right.
One more question for you. I mean, where do you have A&M's defense in that SEC? Top 3? Are they higher than that?
Yeah, I mean, probably overall, yeah, they're pretty close to that. And I think, they've shown that so far. But I think Arkansas will test them there. Arkansas with Jefferson, they'll give them some trouble. Again, this could either be a 17-13 game, or it could be 35-31. It's hard to predict how this game will play out. But I think ultimately, once the floodgates open a little bit here, could be a game where I think pace picks up, both teams start chasing a little bit, and it starts airing out a little bit more than you might expect. So I think this could be a fun game to watch, but also could be disgusting to watch too. Who knows? But I'm going A&M.
I mean, if you're if you're a Longhorn fan, or you're around when the Southwest Conference is around, this is going to be real ugly to watch.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'll tell you what I was thinking about going, and now that I see tickets are as low as $107, I think I'll just watch it on the couch, to be honest with you, because that's a little stout, honestly.
That is pretty expensive.
Give it a couple days.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. That's not what I'm looking for.
Nelly, did we get your words on this?
Yeah, super fast. It feels like a sucker bet, but I'm taking Arkansas. I think a difference maker is KJ Jefferson. I think that it's A&M's defense is elite. How are they going to score on offense against this front seven on Arkansas? It feels like Vegas is going to get me, like Spen said, but I'm going to roll with the Hogs.
Fair enough. All right, let's slide over to our locks. We had a look. My locks record looks so much better than my week-to-week record. Okay, this is important to me. Okay.
Let's keep these blocks rolling, man.
Oh yeah, this is the important numbers.
Yeah, to me,
hey, shout out to the parlay that hit this week, taking all of our picks.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. So
Sir
again,
Sparty,
judge us on our locks. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Sir Sparty won, and I'm not joking, over $30 US. Over 30.
What? No, man.
Change,
baby. It was a 7-unit play, baby. He came out 7 units ahead. You know.
Hey, listen, you gotta slowly build the faith in what we're delivering, right? So he's backing us early, right? We'll just keep building on that, roll it into the next parlay, and let's just keep going.
What is this? Was that last week's I'm looking at? You guys had Ole Miss, and then there was a Minnesota in there. Is that what I'm seeing?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go into week 4's locks. Drum roll, please.
Here we go. I'm excited to see these.
Boom. Y'all should have known where I was going.
Let's go ahead. These numbers are the same as last week. So the point spreads are not correct here. I'm not taking Charlotte minus 16.5 against South Carolina. And I know the Sir Veza is not taking Minnesota minus 27.5.
They're gonna thump them in East Lansing.
And I know USC's not 12-point favorites.
Yeah.
But.
So these are our right picks by teams, but not the right numbers. Yeah. So I'll start off with Charlotte. So again, I hadn't been able to find like the one game that I love quite yet, but where I'm on this one is South Carolina's coming off 2 tough games. It's 22.5 is where it is right now. So Charlotte's getting 22.5, coming off 2 really tough games. We know what they did against Georgia, and I'm not going to really weigh that into it. Georgia's kind of just running through teams right now. But I don't know what that crowd's going to show up. Right. We saw like it was UCLA's stadium in the third quarter is what it looked like. So it's a night game, but I don't know how many people actually come to this to see Charlotte, right? So take the atmosphere out of it, which is usually one of their big advantages. But more importantly, Chris Reynolds is back at quarterback for Charlotte after getting hurt in that first game against FAU, and their backups have been bad. They had 2 bad losses, lost to William and Mary. Like their defense is still going to be atrocious. And I told you that last week. And I usually don't go with bad defenses, but I just think Reynolds is a difference maker. He's a guy that's going to move the football in South Carolina. Rattler probably will have some good throws, but again, like this team played Georgia State, South Carolina, won by 21, but they were outgained by Georgia State. Like they didn't dominate that game in the league. So this is one that maybe South Carolina gets up big early on, but this is absolutely a spot where worst case scenario, I think Charlotte can come in the back door and cover 22.5. So I like Chris Reynolds to throw the ball around, them keep it close, and who knows, maybe have a chance to win, but more importantly, to keep it within the number.
Nice. Yeah, I got Oregon minus 6. Everyone, I think all of our watchers and listeners know that I just am obsessed with Oregon. Ate my crow week 1.
Casey's got you nailed.
I'm telling you, man. Bo Nix starting to play better. Like I'm going to bang the Bo Nix drum until he has a touchdown to interception of a half ratio. Wazoo's getting a lot of love for the Wisconsin win. I don't think Wisconsin's very good. Outside of that, they don't have many results. So I think Oregon rolls. It's a weird game, but I think they're starting to figure it out defensively. They're starting to make the steps. They have the playmakers at all the levels. Offensively, starting to get it rolling. I like Oregon.
I'm going to take us to the high plains of Lubbock, and I'm going to take the Texas Longhorns minus 6.5. Yeah, something just in my gut says this team is going to be different. And I watched that Tech game. This is definitely a gut play. I watched that Tech game last week against NC State, and they just didn't have much. They got their backup quarterback. Obviously, that's a road game. I think NC State's defense is very impressive. But I like how Texas ended last week. I had them on kind of stumble alert against UTSA, just to let UTSA hang around too long. And UTSA did for about a half. And then Texas imposed their will. And I just don't think Tech's got a very strong team this year. Obviously, it's on the road, which weird things can happen in Lubbock, but it's far enough away from OU that's I'm not worried about some sort of trap game. Texas needs it. They know they need it. And for whatever reason, just deep down in my gut, I just have a feeling right now this isn't going to be the same Texas team we've been watching for the decade. I'm not going to say that in 2 weeks against OU.
Hey, okay,
right now this is a win.
Yeah. So real quick though, Texas is without Overshone for the first half. Their stud linebacker. So we'll see if that has any bearing in the first half. I don't know if I guess they're not going to suspend him for his arrest this week. Because he also got arrested.
Second Amendment, baby. You get half a game. So targeting.
Yeah. So I mean, as long as the targeting, as long as the targeting is cool, I'm cool there. Yeah. My lock of the week, we're going to Corvallis. USC, baby. Fight on. Some people call this a trap game. I'm calling this a USC blowout. Caleb Williams is going to keep doing Caleb Williams things, and I might just do the whole Nelly Oregon thing until USC makes me look like a fool. I might just keep riding with them. So
hey, there we go.
Until they start properly placing these lines, I don't think 7 points is. I think USC is much, definitely more than 7 points better than Oregon State in my opinion. So
it's interesting. I mean,
fight on.
Yeah, last week I was going on and on because I thought that was the game last week that you were picking where Oregon State's just a tough place to play. So USC got them at the right time of year. And I do think that line's a little light. I mean, I love Oregon State at 9 or 11 or something like that. But Oregon State, they've been impressive as of late, into last year as well. I think it's just a well-coached, tough team where if they can, not make the big mistakes and keep that game close, I think it might be closer, than USC is going to want it to be.
Yeah, it's one of those where an offense like that, you can be in a game with Oregon State backing them and feel really good throughout. But all it takes is one play with the USC and then cover that one touchdown, right? So it's a tough spot. Couple of thoughts for you, Sir Veza. I'm curious because I think this is a game that Texas should absolutely cover. They should, right? We know they haven't a lot. So I understand your gut play on that. How do you feel about the over? Because I see that number at 60. Which, Tech's not the same team it's been the last decade or whatever. But look at this series. This series has gone over 75 points, 6 of the last 7 matchups. The last 2 years have been just 90 points or something, whatever it's been. 60 seems pretty low for this matchup traditionally. Do you think the defenses win out here?
I don't know if it's the defenses. Number one, I just don't think Tech can keep up. I don't see Tech scoring 30 points. I mean, we've definitely seen talented Texas teams, let Kansas go wild on them. So it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility. Oh, man, I hadn't even considered that. And I don't know that Texas also can light it up. 60 seems about right. I mean, 41-20 is right there.
It's tough.
Maybe
I'm not going to lie.
Too high.
That's why I'm not all over it. This is honestly, I'm a big Texas fan, and I just don't know how they're going to come out and play. Honestly, in my opinion, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I see something 35-20, 37-17, and that's not there. I'd be surprised if it turned into a track meet. But I haven't gotten to see Sarkisian coach enough with these guys, and
the money,
I'm worried about Tech keeping up.
The money is 84% on the under.
Oh, interesting.
So if Tech does cover, though, do you think if Tech covers, it's a game that's 35-31? If they keep for them to cover, they have to keep up, or do you think they can slow down Texas enough to keep it a low scoring game to cover?
I'd be shocked if they could keep it that low scoring. I'd have to, if I had to choose one. I mean, I would choose high. I just don't know. I also don't see that.
It was a number that stuck out to me for this matchup.
Interesting question. Yeah,
I think this is going to be another one of the Bijan Robinson 180, 200-yard games, in my opinion. I think they're about to absolutely feed him the rock. So I really don't know if the over is in play here. I do think it's not going to be just a light the world on fire score, but yet again, it's Lubbock and strange things happen. Thank God it's not a night game because odd things happen at night in Lubbock. So.
I've seen it at a Chili's, no less.
Oh man, that's there we go. Premier destination.
There's only so many places you can eat in Lubbock.
Is this our spreads here? Yeah, but just give you all a little recap of the spreads there. I know the locks were off, so there's our picks there. I like that. Once again, we've got the back and forth there.
We're all over the place this week. I love it. I love it.
Well, I thought that was last week. I went
there we go. Keep it moving. There we go.
Yeah, this is when it gets fun now. So I think this week will be a fun week. I'm excited. I'll definitely be in the Discord Saturday, hanging out with everybody because y'all's Discord, especially in the college football, man, it's so much fun because there's so many different people, so many different fans of so many different teams, and so much going on. It's like there's always something to talk about. So I'll definitely be tuned in. So
and get in there early. I was in there a lot last weekend, and like early before those first games. I mean, people are talking picks and get in there early, see what's going on.
Yeah, Discord's where it's at on Saturdays. It's a lot of fun, and there's some good alpha in there and some good picks. And if nothing else, you get to find some guys to rally with on some bets. Like Sir Veza, I know your Arizona State team lost, but we were loving that under together, right?
Oh yeah,
that's right.
At the end of the first half, I was like, this is not going to go super well.
Yeah,
it was exactly what I thought was going to happen. Just swap the teams.
Yeah, Nelly and Sir Veza, sad.
It happens.
But I don't have anything else for the night, guys. If you got anything you want to end us off with, go right ahead. Be my guest.
Just looking forward to another week. The Sean Aguano time in Tempe is here. So looking forward to seeing if we can slow down that game against Utah. And as also throw a shout out to Casey Jones for getting that artwork looking real good.
There we go.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I don't have much to add. I'm looking forward to this. Should be a fun weekend. Like, there's not a lot of games that you think, this could be a shootout. Like, this could be like an epic weekend. But I think we're going to learn a lot from what we see this weekend. And I'm glad you aren't counting that Vandy win over Bama this weekend.
We'll start talking about Bowling Green in a couple weeks.
There we go. Man,
love it.
Fire it up, man. Looks like it should be a good, fun weekend of football. And hey, we'll all be tuned in. So let's roll.
All I gotta say is fight on. Let's have a good weekend, guys. Let's have a good weekend of bets.
Love it.
Yeah, fight on.
Give them hell.
There you go.